find a different service.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We're in this very small room, but it's a very nice room. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Colonel Jeff. Colonel Jeff's here on layover, and we are here in his room. Feels like I'm overmodulating.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Let's see.
And we got 5 guys.
Just FYI, I can't see Captain Jeff at all. Like you're off the camera.
Oh, he's in the very.
There you go.
Really?
Yeah, Jeff,
what if you... right now you can't see...
Half of you.
I can see like your shoulder and your arm.
You're on the edge of the camera, Jeff.
Oh.
Well, if you tilt the camera just about at 2 degrees, there you go. Is that better, Steph?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, here, give me that.
Everybody knows it, but I need that.
Oh, well, here, put it in this hand.
Hang on, let me move this out of the way. This is not the optimum setup, to say the least. Not
We all
optimum
look very cozy in bed
at
together.
all. Yeah, we're all
5 dudes in a bed.
oh man.
In a very small bed at that.
It's fine though. We can hear you just fine.
Can you?
Yeah, video's not great anyway, but we can hear you just fine. So it's
Okay.
good.
That'll just have to do. Okay, so do we have people in the chat room that can actually see us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, there's people that actually listen to you guys' show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Actually
talk to
watch it.
yourselves?
Wow.
Actually, watch.
That's crazy.
Very sick people.
I'm one of them
I
sometimes.
would have listened if you hadn't recorded it in the middle of the day today, Mike.
Hey, I was trying to give the people in the UK like a warm-up for PT UK. You know, there's very stringent guidelines that you can't encroach upon when you try to podcast on a Friday.
Right. PTUK got there first, so we have to all plan around them.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Let me make sure I log in this one in too.
I got Mike's big old side of his head blocking me. That's perfect.
Oh.
Nah, stay there. It's much better the other
Well,
way.
can you two shift a little bit to your left?
I can shit to my left.
Directional, huh?
Okay. we are online right now. by the way.
Sorry.
We're live.
I did not know that. I do see the orange up there in the corner now, yes, so
Okay.
it makes sense. Okay.
Oh, is that what that live button
Yep,
means
it's,
up there?
It's all
That's what that
good.
means, yes.
It looks good.
All right. testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. How's that sound?
Sounds
good enough, I guess. Good enough.
It'll work.
It'll work. Okay. So you got these show notes and everything, Steph?
I do. I'm trying. I had to close everything, and now I can't get back to my recording stuff.
Really?
Disappeared. Sorry.
Oh, for your audio hijack?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
It went back to like the old version of Audio Hijack that I had.
Oh.
Why did it do that?
You turn 4. No, next one over.
Mm-hmm.
Down?
Yep. No, the other one. Next one to it.
Up?
Yep, up a little bit.
Okay. Is that better? Is that better? I don't know.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Good.
Much better, thank you.
Okay.
A lot of feedback. Though.
A lot of feedback.
Electrical feedback.
It must be these.
It must be that because I don't really hear it anymore.
I don't either. I never did.
Okay, I'm okay. I don't care.
Yeah, it's
This
just
piece of
irritating
shit.
though.
What is this?
That's my active noise. Turn it on. Might be better.
Okay.
A little side button. Oh yeah, now I don't have to hear anybody. Oh, that's even better.
Dana's in heaven.
Somebody say something?
Everything
Family
okay? Gary, can you hear everything okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. All right.
Trollolala guy's gonna get a workout today.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to keep hitting that button. Okay. It's kind of weird when I don't see anything, but well, you know what? I could probably.
HR's going to have a fun time tonight, Steph. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can do about what's about to happen in that room. So
No.
Just be glad that Nick's not here, and then we'd really be in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
We could call it Captain Al if he
Al.
wants to join us.
Who?
Captain Al, have him
Captain
join us.
L.
Captain L.
Okay. I'm recording the old-fashioned way because I forgot at least 1 or 2 cables. So I'm using the Zoom, and it's all being laid down on one track, but it's going to be easier for me to edit everything, so that's the good part. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Let's see, we're starting at 5:30.
Are you recording?
I am. I have a steady
get
red
to my
light.
recording stuff.
Oh, that's right. We got to get. Really? Did you do a search for audio hijack?
Yeah, and it keeps bringing up like the old version. I have
Uh-huh.
no idea what just happened. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're just gonna
Say
we're just gonna
screw
go
it.
without it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it will take me
Just do
forever
it.
to. Not even worth it. I'm sorry. It was up. It was all working, and then like, for some reason, everything crashed. And when I
That's
pulled
what
everything
she
back up,
said.
it was gone.
Like she said.
Why can't I hear the sound effects?
That's what she
There we
said.
go. I heard that.
There it is.
I heard that too.
Okay. Very strange. Okay. I think it's because I'm listening through the Zoom, and for some reason the Zoom, when you're monitoring it, it just cuts stuff out for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 299.
Flight 209, you're clear for takeoff. Roger.
Okay, so I'm assuming it's too loud. Let me start it over and bring the pot down on that one. How's this level?
Much better.
Okay. So is that better stuff than the first one? You still there, Steph?
She's muted.
She's muted.
No.
That sounds quiet to me. The other one sounded okay, but
Yeah, the,
If it was
the
loud,
first
it's
one
really
sounded normal
loud
to
in
me.
here.
all right, that's fine.
That's okay.
Turn mine down a little bit, please. Then.
Yep.
I can hear it just fine. It was just a little quiet.
Okay, well, I'm gonna split the difference then, and you'll just have to grin and bear it.
Oh.
All right. Take 10.
100.
Yes. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 299.
Flight 209, you're clear for takeoff. Roger. 103.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 560 in the Hyatt Regency Recording Studios in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. In this episode, a mystery plane out west, a bird strike, and an Air Force or Air France is indignant after cabin crew held in Argentina. More news, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, The Charger. So get all settled in, tray tables and seatbacks in their upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. Flight 299 is ready for pushback. That was just way too loud the whole time, I think. Nobody probably heard me. Could you even hear my voice over any of that stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
It sounded fine here. I
Okay.
think the chat room thought it was
Too loud?
probably too loud.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what. Maybe my volume's just not turned up high enough. Sounded fine to me,
Yeah.
but whatever works for.
Well, normally what I do when I'm doing that,
Say something?
I've got all their mics turned off
What?
for good reason. Yeah.
Huh?
And I'm thinking
You
about
say
just leaving
something?
them that way. The whole darn thing.
It will make my job much easier.
It will. It'll make editing a lot easier. All right. I think I need to have more beer.
Yeah, have a sip. Everyone take a sip of beer. Every time we have to restart the show, you got to take a drink. It's a
Okay, everybody take a swig.
Shit, the whole
All right.
chat room that includes you too. Drink up.
Chat room included.
Yeah,
Yes.
drink up.
Wow.
All right, let's try this again.
Good thing we have a whole cooler full.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and
you want me to do?
Plug it.
Reload.
back in because I want to hear it better.
Did you guys all see Taco sitting in the background there, asleep on the couch?
Yeah, taco would be perfect.
Hello, hello.
Oh, he's
yeah, I
back
sound
there,
much
see?
better.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, that sounds so much better than when I'm recording in the Zoom.
It does.
Does it sound different
Oh, yeah.
to you too?
What's that?
My mic?
His mic now versus before.
Wow.
It's changed.
Well, I didn't do anything to the mic.
No, just where you plugged it in.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Very well. All
Sounds
right.
the same here, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. Very good. We're going to try this again. And 3's a charm, right? Maybe? Oh, okay. Never mind. 3 was not a charm. All right. Airline Pilot Guy. No, that's not it. Is it Airline Pilot Guy episode?
$2.99.
Thank you.
I mean, it's almost 300.
Just say almost 300.
You should do that.
Okay.
Pilot guy, I retired.
Airline Pilot Guy, almost 300. No, I overmodulated. Sorry.
I like it though. Definitely. do.
Okay. Airline Pilot Guy, almost 300.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. LA 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 560 in the Hyatt Regency Recording Studios in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. In today's episode, a mystery plane out west, a bird strike, an Air France is indignant after cabin crew held in Argentina, more news, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, The Charger. So get all settled in, tray tables and seatbacks in their upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. Flight 299, almost 300, is ready for pushback. Hello and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from 560. I've already done that. So let's move on and tell you that I'm a captain for a major U.S. legacy airline, and joining me as usual, not always, but most of the time, we have a doctor. Nope, that's the wrong one. Stand by for news. Wait a minute, that's not right. Where did Dr. Steph's thing go? Oh, here it is.
Miss Universe.
Yeah, usually it's up a little bit higher up in the order of things here, but it somehow fell way down to the bottom. Oh, I know why. Because when I did the show a few days ago, Dana and Steph weren't with us, so I went ahead and dropped those out of the way, and I forgot to move them back up. All right. So here we go. Continuing. And joining me, as always, the doctor, commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, and marathon runner, skydiver, and so many more things, the wonderful, beautiful Dr. Steph.
Well, hello, Captain Jeff. Wonderful to be with you this evening for episode almost 300. Very excited about this. It's going to be a great show tonight, and somehow I get the feeling I may have been demoted since I was not present on the last episode.
No, you weren't demoted.
Mm-hmm.
It was only a few days ago. Anyway, it's the same week, so you get full credit.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, glad to see you, and I'd like to apologize right off the bat for what's going to be going on here tonight with a group full of guys in this very small hotel room.
I haven't been demoted. You've just made my job exceptionally difficult as
Yeah.
HR representative for the Airline Pilot
But,
Guy.
you know, what can you do from way over there in South Carolina? Right?
Nothing. I'd like to put that as a disclaimer at the start of the show. I cannot be held
Not
responsible
enough.
for anything that is about to happen.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and open up some of these microphones here just to make sure that we can hear everyone. Not sure that we're going to want to, but let me introduce some of the other folks that we have with us here on today's show. Of course, Dana. Oh, so that's not loud enough. Let's try that again. Because we want to hear that motorcycle sound. Here we go.
It's going to be loud.
All right, we have also one of the regular APG crew, Dana, former regional jet pilot, now mainline Acme captain. Dana.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning if you happen to be listening in the morning. Great to be back on another episode 299. And looks like we're going to have a lot of fun in a small room with no air conditioning on and 5 adult males. So it should be a little sweaty.
I'm not hearing your
I
microphone.
can't hear
though.
Dana at all.
Yeah, we're not hearing you, Dana. Can you get the,
Yeah.
the door mic? That's probably Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have this thing unmuted. Oh,
There we go.
Now it's working.
Now you can hear me.
Wow, what is going on with this?
You.
Now I hear you too
operate.
well.
Well, hey, let me move it back a little bit. There we go.
Okay.
That's probably better.
Hey there. Oh, this guy does not have any idea what's going on. So,
We got plenty of beer on
another person walked into the room, another airline pilot. What's his name?
Jesus.
Jesus. How you doing? All right. He brought some beer as well. We can talk about you once we continue the show. I wonder if we just start over from the top. Okay.
Probably not a terrible idea.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Everyone drink.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody, take another drink.
We're starting over?
Yeah.
Take 5.
I would say that the Flying Life podcast today was done in one take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much
How many
for.
hosts did you have?
2. There's 2 of them. I'm just saying.
Not 6.
Well, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have.
I have to sneeze.
Excuse me.
I'm almost afraid to turn off the or mute everybody because when I do
not
that,
come back.
yeah, we can't get them back.
Okay,
For
so don't
some
mute them.
reason.
Just everyone has to be.
All right, I'm just gonna try
Quiet
to
on
be
the set.
Everybody,
All
be
you
HR
can do-
says be
and
good.
Instead
Okay.
of muting, all you have to do is switch off.
nope,
No.
not the XLR.
No, it's got a big...
Yeah, those the US. It only works for USB. That little switch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now you know how to turn me on permanently then.
On or off?
He only wishes he could turn me on.
Okay. Here we go again. Okay. I think I hear like your thing hitting against your microphone, your headphones. Yeah. Okay. All right. Like that's a big difference from based on everything else that's been going wrong. Like what? Nobody cares. Okay. Here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode almost 300. No. Why is it doing that?
You have to put some of these outtakes in the end of the
Man.
show. 'Cause this is just so
This
good.
is probably the worst episode start ever.
Take 6.
Yeah.
You got to do some outtakes. Come on.
Okay.
Hey, just
well,
before you start,
Wait,
Tim,
hold on. We have another drink.
I actually can't send out a push notification
Can you send out a
because
push? I was trying to tell him stuff, but he kept on starting.
I know. That's why I was trying to
I
stop him.
sent one out earlier. What do you want me to do now?
Oh, yeah, you did send one out earlier, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, start at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
That's
We're
what time
good.
I knew how to be here.
6 what?
Well, it's not even
Not
6
6
o'clock yet. We're actually doing pretty well.
Wow. I'm
I
impressed.
said
Not
5
our
o'clock
worst.
and it's not 6.
Not our
Yeah,
worst.
that's our worst.
Okay. And let's see. Let me put this over here. I want to just get
You
this
know,
out of the
people
way.
show up for the train wreck. That is the pre-show,
yes.
right? Like that's
Yes.
part of the beauty of all
They all
of
showed
this.
up at 5 o'clock to see how bad this was going to be.
You are still recording
didn't-
correctly.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
We are.
They didn't know that you all were going to be there, so this has been a special treat.
Oh.
Nice.
On that note,
Well, I had to get that out. I had to get that out.
oh, better out
Otherwise-
than in. Okay.
Please
Yeah.
tell me that's going to be a new sound effect. Because that was perfect.
save that.
Headphones, earphones.
Workout? You have earbuds that you work out with?
Headphones.
Well, grab 'em. We can plug you in so you can hear shit.
I can hear shit right now.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to hear shit. Oh, I think now my YouTube channel is explicit rated. Okay, remember, let's try to
As
keep,
a stare down from Jeff.
let's
gets
try to
in, yeah.
keep it. Let's see, where is he? Here we go.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
There we go. Okay, hello, my family. Are you ready for us to try? What take?
7.
7.
7. Oh gosh. Okay, this has got to be it. Lucky 7.
I'm going to need another beer soon.
Yeah. You know what? Can somebody?
Which one do you want? You want a different one or you want the same
I
one?
like that one. That one is good. The guy. Oh, here. Is there still?
Yeah.
It's like I have a beer in there.
Alcohol abuse.
That is alcohol abuse. I'm sorry.
I'll see if I can find it.
I'm really sorry, Jeff, that we've destroyed your room.
Well, you know,
It's going to take an hour for me to get everything put back together.
Yeah.
The good news is you're creating content. I mean,
Creative content. Yeah, creating content.
Jeff, did you? Colonel Jeff?
I'm good.
Good. I'm good, yeah.
oh,
Not bad. We're only 20 minutes in.
And there's really not that much feedback, but there's so many people here. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's gonna be a great show once we actually start.
I sense sarcasm there. I don't know.
once we actually
No,
start
that was
recording.
supposed to be genuine. I was just being sarcastic about the actual start time, but the show itself is gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually read most of the feedback too because you guys were so late even getting
Nice.
here. I had a chance to.
I
I had a chance to do my homework. Backhanded.
Oh, damn! I just felt the back of her hand again. Okay. I'm thinking I don't want to do this show tonight.
We're just gonna
Do
sit
this.
here for 2 hours and put out whatever we happen to record,
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Whatever happens to be
This is
Listen, all you have to. That's basically what we're gonna do anyway. All you have to do is get through the intro, right? So.
right, and then pretty much that's our normal show, just talking
And then
about
that's our normal show.
stuff.
We're just gonna talk.
Yeah.
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 So
All
no,
right.
no big deal.
Good point.
Just intro.
What's your MacBook battery life at?
It is at 88.
Oh, good. We're still good.
Is yours good?
Oh, I'm plugged in.
You're plugged in.
I brought
Awesome.
my charger.
Thank you.
Another backhand.
God, I'm not really feeling a lot of love here tonight at all.
We love you, Captain Jeff.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Well, thanks, Steph.
That's great.
Okay, I am muting everybody.
That was way too easy.
Oh, shoot. I can still hear him on my mic. Okay, here we go. Airline almost 300.
Flight 209, you're clear for takeoff. Roger.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 560 in the Hyatt Regency Recording Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. In this episode, a mystery plane out west, a bird strike, and Air France indignant after cabin crew held in Argentina. More news, your feedback, and the latest Plane Tales installment, The Charger. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 299, almost 300, is ready for pushback. Hello and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I'm Captain Jeff, a captain for a major legacy carrier here in the good old U.S. of A. And joining me from the beautiful Carolinas, we have the equally beautiful Dr. Steph, who is a doctor, commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, marathon runner, skydiver, and so much more. Dr. Steph Plummer.
Well, hello, Captain Jeff. Listen, I am really looking forward to the show tonight. I think it's going to be one of the ever. I'm very highly entertained, and I can't wait to get started and talk about all of our news and feedback that we have. So,
Awesome.
299, and yep, we'll.
Oh, she's breaking up again. But we're going to move on anyway.
Really?
Also.
Yep.
Yeah. You're like really breaking up. All right. And continuing on. That's too light. Too. All right. And let me make sure I get your microphone this time, Dana. Say something.
Hi.
Okay. Here we go. And also joining us from the Atlanta area here in this hotel studio with us tonight, former regional jet pilot, Acme Captain Extraordinaire, Dana Colton.
Hello, APG community. Great to be back yet once again for 299. We're looking forward to the upcoming 300. It's going to be an exciting episode this evening with a small room, big cast, and no AC. So it should be a nice, sweaty, fun time for us APG podcasters this evening. Looking forward to a fun night.
It's never been better, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of folks here with us, a lot of co-hosts.
I hope we all took showers.
Yes. And let's see, where is the Trollolo? It's not there. There it is. Here we go. Okay, that's the music I play for people who are not regular guests on the show. Oh, don't you love it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, that's enough of that. As he sings in the background there, let me introduce Colonel Jeff, the other Captain Jeff.
Captain Jeff.
He is with us here in this august studio.
If I'd known how small my room was going to be, I'd have tried to move this someplace else.
This is fun.
This is the postage stamp edition.
So Colonel Jeff is here on a layover, and we thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to get together, an excuse to drink beer and record a podcast. So, welcome, Colonel Jeff.
Yay!
Oh, by the way, he is also an airline pilot for a major legacy carrier based here in the U.S. of A. And moving around the room here, of course, fellow Airline Aviation podcaster Mike Carroll's Flying and Life podcast.
Good evening.
Oop. Hang on. Okay.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in podcast land. How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be here. Second podcast of the day. So this is it's a great podcast day.
It is. And speaking of great podcasts, we're following another finished a little while ago, and now we're here to do another episode of APG. We've already done one this week. And if you're listening to the audio-only podcast, of course, you're thinking, what, there was another one this week? No, you're not listening to this until the following week. And we're trying to get these things all in the can before the official episode 300 on the 25th of November. All right. And we also have the Trollolo guy's still singing, so that means we have time to introduce our other co-host tonight, our other crew member, and he is an airline pilot, a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. His name is Gary.
Beer. Hello, everybody. Have a good evening.
Leaving. He's pretty smart.
No, it's pass off now.
We actually, believe it or not, there's also another airline pilot here in this room. He's sitting over in the corner. He is Captain Colonel Jeff's co-pilot. He's a brand new pilot, unnamed legacy carrier, and his name Jesus. And he's saying he's giving us a thumbs up. He does not want to talk. I don't blame him. He's just kind of wondering what in the heck he's gotten into.
I tried to warn him, but I couldn't give him a full picture of this until he actually saw it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And this is not normal, actually. This is...
No.
Well, come on.
Yeah.
It is.
It is? Oh, okay. Anyway, so hope everybody's doing well out there in podcast land. And we're excited to get together this evening to do another show. And as I mentioned, episode 300 is coming up in just over a week. And we wanted to make sure you had something to listen to earlier in the week. And many of you listening right now are probably in your cars with your families, traveling, driving somewhere. So I'm hoping that we're going to give you something entertaining to listen to while you do that. All right. Now, I'm trying to find my show notes. Where are they? They got to be here somewhere. Okay. Here they are. Let's start off by talking about the upcoming special show, episode 300, which is a week from tomorrow. And Steph, you want to tell everybody about what we're planning on doing for the show and when it's going to happen and all that?
I can provide some details, certainly, and I may need some help from Dana in just a second. But can you guys hear me okay now? Is that better connection-wise? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't know what that was about earlier. Yes, so next Saturday is going to be episode 300. That is the 25th of November. It is going to be in the Atlanta, Georgia area. If you are going to be in the area, it is 2 days after the Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. But if you are in the area and you would like to join us, we've heard from many of you already, please send us an email to 300@airlinepilotguy.com, and we will give you all the information for where we're going to be, when we're going to start, what you need to do to join us. I think the tentative plan is to start around 11 a.m. for the actual podcast. No,
we're going to start setting up about 11.
Yeah, we're saying everybody can kind of show up around 11 o'clock.
Sorry, my
and
fault there.
Who knows?
About noon, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So
7,
if you're
8,
planning
9.
on coming, be there at 11. Plan to be there around 11, and we'll start, plus or minus 2 to
7
5
hours.
hours later.
Sometime on
Sometime in the afternoon of Saturday, the 25th.
It's going to be alcohol-induced and food-induced, so it will be surrounding that, I'm sure, most of the day. So it's going to be a big function.
And from what I understand, Dana is going to be cooking up a storm for us as well. So
yeah, tell us about that, Dana. What do you have planned for us?
I decided to cook up hamburgers and hot dogs. And
oh, great!
Get all exciting.
And some potato chips.
I was going to bring potato chips and some potato salad made at the local store. No, of course not. I'm not going to. Come on now. I mean, you can't ever trust a skinny chef. That's the reason why I'm not
This is why I
skinny.
don't cook.
That explains a lot.
Poor Justin.
At this point, because it is a Thanksgiving holiday, it's going to be a challenge for me to be able to get to the markets and get everything I need, but it's going to be well worth it because I haven't fully planned out the menu as of yet, but lunch is going to be served and dinner is going to be served, and the plan is going to be something along the lines of homemade beer, not homemade, but beer brats, hot dogs for lunch, maybe some burgers or grilled chicken, because my smoker is going to be very busy all day. It's Friday. I'm going to go ahead and smoke up probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 racks of ribs, baby back ribs, and then finish them off on Saturday. And then Saturday morning, get up bright and early, probably about 5 in the morning, and I'm going to take a big old pork butt with the bone in, and I'm going to put that on the green egg and let it smoke all day. So, and have all the sides with it. I haven't decided whether, well, I'll probably make my homemade baked beans, probably some other fixings along the way, as they say down here in the South, which I'm not used to saying, fixings.
Yeah.
Sides.
It's
fixins. There's no G on the end of the word. It's fixins.
Fixins, man.
It's fittings. Well,
Fittins.
So no,
Yeah.
we're hearing ourselves.
You can
So,
admit half the word.
it's going to be a great day. The only thing I would recommend, if you want our address to be able to show up, you need to contact us. I really need a count so I know how many people to cook for. I'm planning between 30 and 40 is my goal. I can do more, I can do less, but the plan is for the food. We'll be providing the food, but BYOB. So contact us so you can have the address. It is in Smyrna, Georgia. And information from me regarding a place to stay, recommendations around me. Please don't hesitate to let me know. We look forward to seeing everybody.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're doing. We're just going to be eating and drinking and trying to do something that resembles some kind of a show.
If you'd like a reference, you can watch APG 200.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good example of probably what the show is going to be like, which is really hard to describe.
And
I've got plenty
the show or the 300 show.
Both.
I've got plenty of room in the house. Anybody that's going to crash here is more than welcome to. Pass out, more likely. And I haven't talked to Jeff about any whether we're going to provide any beverage at all, as far as maybe a pony keg of beer or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. We haven't really talked about that.
But we'll certainly have beverage. We're looking forward to seeing everybody.
All right. So that's out of the way. Let's talk. Let's see. Steph, what have you past week? It's been about a week, hasn't it?
I think so. I'm actually just trying to remember when we had our last show. I don't exactly recall.
Let's see. Well, you weren't with us on Tuesday, so it must have been like last
Thursday.
Thursday, I think. Yeah.
Last Thursday.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Not a whole lot here. I have not done any flying myself, but I did do some.
Oh, you said you were going to try to do some flying.
No, I did, but that was actually before the last show.
Oh.
So I think I talked about it already.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's true.
Went out, got night current. That was a week ago. Haven't had a chance to go back out, even though this week would have been perfect for it. I've had a very busy week at work. Actually, kind of been put into a little bit of an HR role for the moment, which is not my
like
favorite
a real
thing.
HR role?
Yeah, which is it's not actually my favorite thing. I like doing it for the show here, but as part of my real responsibilities at work, it's not my favorite. So that's been keeping me very busy. It's just been I think I've mentioned this before, this is a really busy time of year at work. So I've just been kind of swamped with all of that and looking forward to a few days off coming up for Thanksgiving and seeing y'all in Georgia for the 300th episode and moving into the holiday season. So not anything terribly exciting, but just trying to make it through. So.
Okay. Dana, what have you been up to?
I had a great week. I had a record at Acme. Flew, I have to think about that for a second. 3, 4, 7, 9, 3, so that's 12 legs. Of the 12 legs, I kept the aircraft for 7 of it, including an overnight. So it was it's 2 overnights actually. It was amazing to keep an airplane without having to do the Acme shuffle. So it made that trip that was kind of miserable into a nice, easy trip. The weather was cooperative. The only problem I had was I felt like I was flying with the Energizer Bunny. Energizer Bunny was didn't stop for 1 second talking. So yeah, he just come off the airplane. Here he is talking the air off of the gate agent, talking the flight, and it's talking to me, and he was talking about stuff that I had no idea what he was talking about because I was just over in my corner. So
does he have a podcast as well?
Aviation.
Okay.
And he has stage fright, and I wonder why. It's amazing to me because he's a nice. I mean, and I'm not saying this in a if he happens to be listening to it, I'm not going to use his name, obviously.
I doubt he's listening.
But I doubt he's listening because he has much more important things to listen to, like Magic Show podcast. So, anyways, he great guy to fly with, nothing wrong with it, but just at some point Excedrin because it was just too much.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thing you mentioned. I would imagine a lot of passengers wonder what it's like on these long flights in a cockpit. Are we continually talking about things, or is it completely silent, or is it a combination of the two? And I'd say in most cases it's a combination. Where you talk for a little bit, but then you stop talking because you kind of want to collect your thoughts, and somebody who is constantly talking is very, very fatiguing. And I can't tell you how many times I've flown with somebody like that, and I'm looking out the window on my side of the airplane, just rolling my eyes, thinking, "Will you please shut up?"
I think that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's sitting quietly in the corner going, I can say a lot right now, but...
Well, when it becomes particularly irritating is when you're trying to shoot the approach. Well, what's the rule below 10,000 feet?
Yeah, I think it's a sterile cockpit rule.
Yeah, I don't need to know about my investments on final.
Oh, that's not good.
Hey, it's just trying to help, man.
He's just trying to give you some good advice.
Well, he is. I do have to give him props because he has 3 daughters and a wife, and it's just him. So he fits right in with the ladies. Just talking the whole entire time. Perfect.
Now, Glenn, I'm not ranting. Come on, stop it.
Wow.
No, it was okay. I mean,
Dana's ranting.
I'm not ranting. I never never rant. But it was a good trip, a good week. Sorry I missed the podcast on Tuesday. Of course, you won't have that. That was last week now. By the time this is released, but really looking forward to 300. That's all I can say right now. That's all on my agenda. I bid my entire month of November around 2 things: Thanksgiving and APG 300. So
nice.
I don't go back to work now. I finished yesterday. Went home after my fatiguing trip and took a nice 3-hour nap. And now I don't have to go back to work until the 28th, so it's beautiful.
Nice.
You know, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I'm clearly in the wrong profession.
Yes, you
I have to
are.
work most of next week.
Well, you
And
know,
the
it's
week
not too late, Steph. You know,
No,
just
no,
go
no,
out there and
it's
start
not
flying.
I know. I just need 1,100 more hours. I'll be good.
Hey, Steph, it's not a big deal. We get some cheese over here to go with that wine.
Excellent.
Oh, wow.
Feel the love. Not.
Only kidding, honey.
That's the fail horn.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can edit that out.
Yeah, no, I won't.
No.
I could. I won't.
Mark this down for editing. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else interesting that we want to talk about or not so interesting before we move on to the Java Jive, the coffee fund? Okay, forever hold your peace. Here we go. We can sing if you want, because there's no latency here.
That's right.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
No thanks. I love coffee. I love tea. I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. Woo! So they'll continue to sing in the background while I talk about the wonderful people that have contributed to the Coffee Fund. And the Coffee Fund Classic method, we have Nicholas Hewitt. Thank you, Nicholas, for contributing via the PayPal Classic method. And we have a new producer. Where's my bell? Bell, bell, bell. Here we go. It's like right here somewhere. All I can find is the fail horn, and that's not what I want to ring. Well, just pretend that you hear a bell. Oh, here it is. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, new producer, Ham Radio Jim. You've heard of Ham Radio Jim. Okay. Dana is motioning that he's burning up in here because we don't have the air conditioning on because it's making a lot of noise. So we're just going to have to suffer for the APG. He's looking at me like he wants to kill me. Okay. So.
Take my shirt off.
Okay. No. Anyway, back to the Coffee Fund.
Forget.
So the Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially.
Be jealous.
Yeah, Java Jive, Coffee Fund, airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. There you go. That's enough of that. Let's move on before things get really, really bad here.
They're
and
not.
People start.
Wait.
Yeah.
People maybe need to know that I actually did have a different intro before we did the actual intro. And I did put in a disclaimer that I was not responsible for anything going on tonight. And I would just like to reiterate, I have zero control over any of this. And my apologies in advance.
It's not Steph's fault.
Not my fault.
It's not. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Well,
Steph,
Carry
we
on.
all love you. You know that.
Yep.
Oh, I know.
let's move on with this
We have a
award-winning
room
show
full
here.
of men right now talking with you. Podcasting with you.
Okay, here we go.
What else could a lady want?
Stand by for news.
Lane Street has absolved Steph of all responsibility. There you go. All right, let's start off with our first item of news. And this is a very, very strange one, if you ask me. This is an event that occurred out on the west coast of the United States, and it involved a mystery plane. And this is from, I'm trying to pull up the site, and it's not pulling up very well here. What is
Do
it
you want
called?
me to read it?
Please do, Steph.
So this is from The Drive. I don't know where that's actually from, but that's the
TheDrive.com.
And it says something quite out of the ordinary occurred in the skies over Oregon on October 25th, 2017. The mystery aircraft was flying in daylight hours among the steady stream of airliners that traverse from south to north between locales in California and Nevada and cities like Portland and Seattle and beyond. The incident began at least as best we can tell, around 4:30 p.m. near the California-Oregon border, and resulted in multiple pilot eyewitnesses, recorded air traffic control audio, and eventual confirmations from both the FAA and the North American Aerospace Command, NORAD, that it did indeed occur. The first inklings of the story came shortly after the incident. Sparse details at the time sounded like it was probably just another one of the often misconstrued incidents that happen in the skies around the U.S. every day, ones where aircraft with inoperable radios or transponders stray into areas they shouldn't. And sometimes these occurrences result in local fighter jets paying the wayward aircraft a visit at the direction of NORAD. But days after blowing off the incident, it later began to seem that there was indeed more to the story than just another Nordo private aircraft, or lackadaisical? Is it lackadaisical or lackadaisical?
Yep, that's it. Lackadaisical.
Without an S. Okay, lackadaisical pilot.
Spit it out.
Sorry.
But you can say lackadaisical if you want.
Okay,
but
I just wasn't
that
sure.
was
I saw that in
Yeah.
advance, and I was questioning it. Anyway,
If you happen to be based in Los Angeles, it's lackadaisical.
lax. I would say, yeah, exactly. So this is from a Reddit thread that was of particular interest to the writer. Added some critical details, and supposedly penned by a pilot who says there were in the sky over the Northwest in the early evening hours, or they were there in the sky in the Northwest over the early evening hours when the incident occurred. So it reads, just landed in Seattle, coming from the Bay Area. Beginning over southern Oregon, we kept overhearing Seattle Center, attempting to track an airplane with no transponder who wasn't talking. A handful of crews were able to track it visually. Best they could tell, it was between flight level 350 and 370, northbound. Nobody close enough to see the type. Last we heard,
just want to interrupt you. I'm sorry,
Yep.
Steph, but you didn't know this, but I do have a little bit of audio when this was happening, and it might be interesting to hear a little bit of an exchange. I did edit this a little bit for brevity, and let's take a listen to some of this.
Center, good evening, Southwest 4712, flight level 380, and we're watching that unknown aircraft at 1 o'clock.
4712, Seattle, turn around here, and
please.
South 4712, is there any TCAS indication?
No negative TCAS, it's just a visual.
Roger, keep me advised.
Roger that.
South 4712, can you estimate the distance?
Yeah, our estimation is now between 12 and 15 miles. Definitely further away than it was before. There's some clouds up there, so it's getting harder and harder to see it, but we still see the object there.
South 4712, Roger. You said you're 1 to 2 o'clock right now?
Yep, affirmative, between 1 and 2 o'clock.
Southwest 500, contact the Oakland Center, 119.907.
1997, 500.
United 612, Seattle.
Go ahead.
United 612, take a look out the right side, there's 3 o'clock, maybe 5 to 10 miles for an airplane that's maybe northbound 370-ish.
Yeah, we got him. It's a white airplane. Yeah, about 10 miles away.
Yes, sir. Is he about a BU overtaking?
Yeah, he's a beam. It looks like he's slowly going
looks like right now
from north
behind, yeah.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the quality of this recording. This was probably pulled from liveatc.net, and that is a network of folks who set up receivers and scanners to record all these communications that are out there. And if you're wondering, is the radio transmission quality that bad when we are in the airplanes listening to this? And no, we hear everything crystal clear. No, Mike, it's crystal clear, and all that static and weird noise in the background and stuff, we don't normally hear any of that stuff. So just wanted to make sure that people didn't hear this and think, wow, how can you guys tell what the air traffic controllers are telling you about, and that type of thing.
Well, I think maybe the white aircraft might have been Acme MD-88 on the West Coast. They're not used to seeing that out there.
That could be.
That's probably what it was.
So why didn't you want to talk to anybody while you were flying out there?
Well, because
Well-
I've
Wasn't
never
supposed
been
to
over
be
the
there.
mountains.
So-
I was
so
completely,
the,
totally flabbergasted on how
The
beautiful they
Reddit
are.
user has
Just
an
had
idea.
no clue. I even turned on
Or a
off the
theory.
transponder so nobody could track me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting incident. You don't see this very often, and the agencies that were contacted to kind of corroborate or clarify or confirm any of this stuff, some said fully cooperated, and then others said no comment. Who knows really what was going on here? Some people kind of surmise that this had something to do with an airplane that was carrying drugs. Perhaps from
the Reddit user thought it
somewhere
was
south of the
running drugs
border
to
and
Canada.
heading up toward Canada. Nobody really knows for sure. Does anybody have any ideas here?
Believe a long time ago when I was flying down to South America, actually, thank goodness it was a full moon night. I saw an airplane pass us in the middle of the night, and he wasn't on the TCAS, he wasn't on the radios, and he went right, no lights on either. In the middle of the night, up at he's up at 34,000 feet with us, going the opposite direction. So those kinds of things do happen. This wasn't nighttime, so that's kind of weird. The whole idea that they don't have a primary radar target isn't that unusual, because radar coverage is not as perfect as everybody thinks it is. Without our transponders, a lot of times they don't see us. I mean, the first time they know that we're not there is all of a sudden they lose our transponder, and they're going to call you, hey, we don't get your transponder anymore, cycle your transponder. You need to switch to the other one, and it works. So the part I find interesting is the F-15s didn't find it. What I'd like to know is, when did the F-15s launch? Now, they're in Portland. I'm not sure the area where they had to go to intercept the target.
Yeah, the article talked about they weren't sure whether the F-15s were already up and operating when they got the call, or if they were scrambled from the ground. And
yeah, they probably weren't up and operating unless it was a training mission that diverted them from. But I don't think the airspace is that close.
Okay.
And on a typical training mission, they wouldn't have the legs to go that far without returning to base for fuel. So the alert jets would. But again, it's you're looking at a pretty much max range right around 160 miles for the radar. So
that's pretty sophisticated radar.
Oh
on
yeah,
that, airplane,
it's
right?
not. No airliner is going to beat that radar, by trying to hide from it, even down low in the weeds. So, my guess is that, they did have some primary hits off and on, so it can't be any kind of stealth technology, if you want to go that far. So the F-15s would have seen it. It's just a question: were they there in time to see it? Did they ever get close enough?
Yeah. Interesting, but it's still quite a mystery.
And the fact that it's outrunning a 7.3 isn't saying a whole lot. It's not like we're going that fast.
Now, what kind of aircraft do you fly?
Mike, any ideas?
Steph's trying to say something. I think.
Go ahead,
I
Steph.
did. Yeah, can you hear me?
I
feel like I've been...
hang on.
Oh, he muted you.
Sorry, Steph.
Oh, well, that's why you can't hear me. I've been saying all kinds of stuff, and you guys are just...
Oh, I'm sure it was very interesting.
Yeah, it really wasn't. Well, I just wanted to, Jeff made a comment about the 7.3. What kind of aircraft is it that you fly?
7.3.
Colonel Jeff?
7.3.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Insider
and
information
get used
there.
to being ignored, just Steph, when you get married, it happens a lot.
Can't wait.
I'm really, really sorry I accidentally
Jeff,
muted you.
don't worry.
Steph.
I mute myself. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
It was probably a test flight from Area 51. No big deal.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really that close to Area 50. Well,
No.
it's on that side of the country, but
Yeah, and they can go that far.
yeah, they do.
Some of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have no idea what was going on there, but I thought it was interesting, and several of you thought so as well, and that's why you sent us.
They were practicing chemtrail.
We do have some chemtrail news later in the feedback section. of the show.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, let's don't talk about it, though. Okay. Let's move on. The next one involves a bird strike. This was, and you definitely need to look at this video in the show
Or
notes.
just a picture.
Yeah, well, the picture is good, but the video is even better because the bird is actually, I guess maybe the wind is blowing the feathers of this bird or something like that. That's still.
I can't imagine the bird is still alive after all this.
I can't either.
I really hope not, for
What
the
the
sake
hell
of the
that?
bird.
Yeah,
So.
it was the bird. Let's see. So this airplane, this American Airlines Flight 1498, was approaching runway 9 at Miami International Airport at about 11 a.m. when it struck a bird, a very large bird. The bird impacted and penetrated the radome of the Airbus A319. And then they put the registration number of the Airbus, which I don't know why is important at all. A safe landing was carried out, and the aircraft taxied to gate D22 for normal disembarkation disembarkation. There we go. And there's people got off. The passengers got off the airplane at D-22. Well, birds often hit airplanes during flight, and I would point. Birds don't normally hit airplanes. Airplanes normally hit the birds.
It's not like the bird's like, ooh, a plane. I'm going to fly.
Yeah, I'm going to hit that airplane. Yeah.
Here I come.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the reason why I thought it was interesting is that when you see the picture and the video, it's like, wow. There, because we talk about sometimes these incidents like that radome that was hit a Delta Airlines 757 charter descending into Chicago Midway. We talked about it on the last episode or the one before that, and it left a very, very large indentation on the nose cone of the 75, and they're kind of surmising that this was a bird strike, but there was no evidence of a bird strike but in this case, there is clear evidence of a bird strike.
You think?
Yeah.
What happened here? Ooh.
Well, if you look at the picture, it looks like the bird hit the nose cone, and then it cracked it, and the head slid inside, and it's hanging there by its neck with its body sticking out.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't want to know what the
exactly
inside of that radome looks like. I'm just.
Or the, yeah.
Clearly
You feel
the
bad
bird
for
does.
the bird. You really
Yeah, the
do.
bird knows what it looks like. You guys are just so
funny though,
cruel.
because we were looking at that. What was it? The 757, the Delta one in Chicago. And you go, how does that happen from a bird? Well, this is pretty clear evidence how that happens from a bird. You have a bird that size, it's going to make that kind of an impact. You know.
In another article, I said it's some kind of goose that they hit. I can't remember exactly what kind. So,
Yeah.
you can see from the picture, it's a pretty big bird.
When you fly, yeah, when
He
you
really put his neck out there to prove
Really stuck his neck out.
what it looks like when you hit a bird in flight.
going into Miami and Fort Lauderdale, they have what are those things?
Yeah.
Those turkey
I
buzzards?
don't know what
or
they
whatever?
are, but they're
Are they
big.
turkey
huge.
buzzards?
Yeah, they're
Yeah, I think
huge
so.
birds.
Yeah, we've got those here too. Turkey buzzards are
Yeah.
big
Have not
birds.
hit
Yeah.
one yet. Hopefully never.
So why do I rednecks not looking for us to hit those birds for them so they can have some turkey dinner?
Today's special.
Dinner.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Thanksgiving.
Jeff, back when I was working for Acme Compass before I was purchased / merged with current Acme, we had a bird strike in an A320 going into Minneapolis where the airplane hit a trumpeter swan, and it went through the radome and through the forward firewall / forward pressure bulkhead. It hit an access panel, and the bird finally stopped traveling down the aircraft when it hit the E&E compartment, and the airplane was down for about 36 days with because it blew its pieces all over the E&E compartment, which had to be then cleaned. My guess is with Q-tips and alcohol wipes, and I'm glad I was not an AMT on that aircraft.
Yuck.
Yeah, double yuck. All right. Let's go ahead and make all the noise you want. Oh, now you're over. You're finished.
Yeah, we're done now.
Dang.
I was really trying to be I
No, actually, you were pretty good. I muted you guys
Dana,
too.
you fail as usual, Dana.
Oh. Anyway, we have a cooler with a bunch of ice cubes in it, and it makes quite a bit of noise. Anyway, so again, as always, check out the link to this news item, this bird strike, in the show notes. Let's see our.
All this IPA.
Excuse me.
Who's going to drink all this IPA?
Well, I don't know. Are we?
Episode
think I was gonna be
300
there?
is literally in a week away, and Dr. Steph isn't here right now.
Yeah.
Pretty
I will
sure
be
it's
there,
safe
though.
to say we'll be good to go.
Yeah, we can keep it. Hold it over for next weekend.
What kind of
I
IPAs
have
did
room
you
in my
make?
refrigerator for that.
Well,
More
you can-
ice.
I'm going to have a lot of.
Just keep it outside until then, and we'll get some ice. It's fine.
yeah.
I'm muted, aren't I? Yeah.
No,
No,
you're not muted.
Okay.
but Steph's saying just keep it
Put your
outside. We'll
put
be
your
good to go.
headphone in. You
know,
can hear
if
what
I
we're
had-
saying.
If I didn't have a pain in my neck because I'm bending over like this,
Well, here. Can you move that a little bit closer?
No,
No,
so.
that's as far as it
about
goes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Oh, there we go.
Well, Dana, I hate to say this, but I think you could use an extension.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, I think I need a few.
Okay. Moving on. I'm
talking about my hair now.
I'm talking about your headphone line cable cord. Thank you.
Sure
That's
you
what
were.
she said.
It's about the length, really.
Yes. Not about the girth.
Okay. Let's move on.
Because I do have the widest.
Family show.
Wait, no. I do have the widest plug of all of us.
It's true, you do. You do have the Bose nose.
I do have the Bose headset with the battery attached to it, and it's really wide.
Yeah.
Talking about my headset.
Okay, let's move on.
Swiftly.
With the biggest earplug.
Air France indignant after cabin crew held in Argentina. The president of Air France, KLM, Jean-Marc Janilek.
God bless you.
Thank you. Has expressed.
Perfect. Nailed it. Yes.
Oh, thanks. Indignation at the detention of members of a flight crew in Argentina and referred the matter to the French Foreign Ministry. France's SNPNC labor union, which represents cabin crew, said the employees were detained over a 2-day period after the daughter of a former Argentine justice minister, who was a passenger on the transatlantic flight, filed a complaint. The SNPNC union said the passenger had demanded an upgrade to business class, which was refused because the cabin was full. The passenger then sought a different seat, citing a neighbor with a disagreeable attitude. They were arrested by police, the cabin crew, and interrogated under conditions that flouted fundamental rights before they were incarcerated and later released without explanation, the SNPNC said in a statement on its website. In a letter to the Argentine embassy in Paris, the union said that the flight crew's purser was separated from colleagues during questioning and held in a room measuring 1 square meter without food or water under the surveillance of 2 armed guards.
Like us with no air conditioning. About the same size room.
There are no armed guards in here.
Wait, hold on.
Wait a second.
I can arrange for that.
This is America.
Hello, Atlanta police.
Yeah. Put the phone down, Steph.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so much for that.
Downtown Atlanta.
I guess that's one of those things that you're exposed to, so to speak, when you happen to fly outside of the country that you're a citizen of, and you don't always have the same kind of rights that you enjoy in your home.
Venezuela's good at this too.
Really,
we have several crews who can never set foot in that country again. We have a flight attendant who happened to make the comment because their time is a half an hour different than everybody else's, and she was trying to explain to the passenger. She finally just, well, it's Chavez time. Yeah, bad move
Nice.
when there's a government minister on the airplane. So yeah, she's never.
Nobody's heard from her since.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm not saying this happens often, but it happens. Any given country, like you said, Jeff. You know, when you're a crew member going internationally, you have to be respectful of the laws of the country that you're about to enter. And I can say because I've been on the operational control side of things, when we have crew members detained, that's a big deal. And that goes, and people in my office don't stop working until our employees are no longer detained by that country. Not only because we just want them not to work the flight in the morning, that is like sidestep. We want them to be able to come back home. We want them not to be in trouble with the government where we just landed.
How often does something like that happen?
I've had it at least happen 3 or 4 times so far in my career that I've known of when I've been working.
So would you say like once every couple of years you get
I would say at least once a year.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had. I mean, I've tried to. South America, iPhone products are big in South America to smuggle in, and I've heard stories of one flight attendant had like 16 in the lining of his coat, and he got caught, so he went to jail.
Well, he's just very connected.
Yeah, very, very.
He didn't want to miss a phone call.
Because they're like twice the price down there as they are here. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't want to fall off the bed.
Oh, we were looking at a possible microphone catastrophe.
Yeah.
Malfunction.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to fall off the bed.
Yes. Do you mean our studio table?
Yeah, studio table.
Studio table.
Yeah.
The sound bed.
It's very plush.
It is. Only the best for the APG. All right. That's it for the news. We need to move on to something more interesting, which is, of course, your feedback.
Captain. Incoming.
Now, Steve sent us something very interesting. Steve Horn, Captain Horn, the guy that does the wonderful How I Got Here installments. And he said, you should check this out. It's a YouTube video, and he sent a link to it. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, but it's
I watched
pretty
this.
amazing.
This was good.
Yeah, it was
Very
from
good.
Flight Chops. The gentleman that does Flight Chops, and now I can't remember his name. Right
You know,
off
it
the bat.
sounded like Steve on the video, but I don't think it was. Is that right?
No, it wasn't
It's not.
Steve.
But it sounds a lot like him. But anyway.
It was in the description. It says a low-time pilot, so obviously it's not Steve.
The guy had in the video. The guy who's flying has 60 hours, and it's his first night flight without his instructor. Just to,
Oh, do you think that Steve was the one that was narrating it?
that's what it sounded like to me, but I wasn't 100% certain. It sounded like his voice, but I could be wrong.
Oh, you know what? It may have been. I'll have to ask him. This was on the Flight Chops YouTube channel. And anyway, so the video, which you'll have to watch, we're not going to play it on the show here. Well, let me read the description. This pilot's abilities are tested as he faces a serious situation trying to land at night with an electrical failure. And let's see. So anyway, the guy that's a low-time pilot, he's flying at night, and there's some kind of an issue with the cell of the battery, and
So what happened was he went to put on his landing light. He'd already been he tried to contact the tower where he was going to land at a local, just small general aviation airport, and the tower was already closed. And there was no other traffic in the area. He'd already made his radio calls. He was on basically a kind of base, downwind to base turn. And he went to put his landing light on, and everything electrical in the airplane quit. And it looks like a Cessna 172 or similar. I think it's Cessna 172.
Yes.
And, it's great watching it. I actually, you can feel a little bit of the tension, even though the pilot doesn't sound terribly tense or nervous, just the way the narration goes, because they bring up a lot of things that we should all be thinking about. If we were to find ourselves in this situation in a single engine aircraft at night, at a basically uncontrolled tower now, even though there's no other traffic or other things to worry about in the area, it's interesting to watch because he notes the pilot actually had a backup or handheld radio, but it wasn't readily accessible. He was basically on final, and he had already turned on the runway lights.
So what could possibly go wrong at that point? You're at night, and you see the runway ahead of you, and it's all lit up beautifully. Continue, Steph.
So, not to ruin it, but you really should watch it anyway. The lights turn off, and he has no way to turn them back on because all of his electrical equipment on the aircraft is out. So he basically has to, and he's like 100 feet off the ground when it happens. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do you continue and land in the dark and where you can't see because you have no lights at all, no landing lights on the runway, no illumination from your own aircraft, or do you go around? But in this case, the pilot landed, and the consensus was basically that was the right idea because you in a Cessna 172, everything's electrical there. Your flaps are electrical. So he already had flaps in. He had no way to raise those if he was going to go around. He, doesn't know exactly what the electrical problem is. So are you putting yourself at risk for fire or something else with that situation? It's better just to get the aircraft on the ground in that case. And he really did a great job. But it feels very tense while you're watching it because they're narrating it and they're telling you all the things that are considerations, which, if you put yourself in that situation, you have one goal to get the aircraft on the ground at that point. And maybe you're not thinking about all of those things, but it's really good from a learning perspective to consider all of that and think about all of it. So,
and when you look at the video, they make a point that our human eyes are much better at compensating for lack of light and that kind of thing. So apparently they were saying that even though in the video it looks like you can't see a thing, as Dana won't be able to see a thing here very, very soon. Brady's drinking these things. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a startle factor. The guy has his handheld radio in his bag and not readily accessible, not thinking about the fact that he needs to make sure that those lights are going to stay on by, clicking 5 times in 5 seconds or whatever.
Medium, 7, whatever you want. I don't know if our other GA pilot in the group, dispatcher Mike, has ever landed at a uncontrolled field where the lights are not working and the landing light on your aircraft has quit, but it's very dark.
I've had the electrical failure before.
Yeah.
Single engine.
At night?
At night.
Oh.
I was flying home
bad
from
timing.
Minneapolis with my best friend back down to Lewis University Airport down in Chicago. And we were over Winona, Minnesota. And all of a sudden I look over, there's the red light on over here. And that red light is the amp draw, the low voltage light. I go to my friend, how long has that been on? I don't know. Oh. And it was in a 182 RG, which is a hydraulically hydroelectric kind of type of gear. So the first thing I did is put the gear down, and I was doing flight following, and right away went with ATC. I'm like, hey, we got to get on the ground. I still got radios, still got this. I need a vector to an airport has something with maintenance, and we basically overnighted in Winona, Minnesota, because our generator basically failed.
Was it VMC?
It was.
Ah, good.
Yeah. So it was the only time I've done. It's kind of funny. He will now fly with me again. This is a good 15 years ago. He'll now fly with me again, but we actually diverted the second time on the way back home the next day because of a line of thunderstorms that came through. The airplane we were flying had a storm scope, and I'm doing the distance, and I see lightning on the storm scope, and I see where we want to go, and the lightning in between us. I'm like, yeah, we're not going to do that. So we actually diverted a second time on that flight. He goes, I'm never flying with you again. I'm like, dude, I saved your life twice. I mean, seriously.
You don't realize how good you have it.
Yeah.
No, but in the service we actually did, when I was flying OV-10s, which is a light twin turboprop, we did blacked out runway landings. And you wouldn't turn on your landing light until like 50 feet. And, like you said, your eyes are a lot better. Your peripheral vision is real good at seeing the rush, not your direct vision. Your peripheral vision is better for detecting things at night.
And how do you spell that?
Yeah, I don't even want to start. But, it would be a challenge, to go from the runway lit up to blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far it was when the runway lights went out, but
it was about 100, 150 feet, something like that.
He's got a few seconds for his eyes to adapt, which isn't very long.
I think he did the right thing.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Especially for being a low time pilot like that. And as Steph mentioned, his demeanor and the way he conducted himself, which is the same thing, and I don't know why I said that. Peripheral. In the airplane with the passenger, because he had a couple passengers in there.
A couple passengers, yeah. And he put them to work a little bit. He had them holding the flashlight so that he could see what's going on and trying to troubleshoot a little bit. And he didn't get overly complicated in his description to them of what was going on. I think he did a really good job. I agree
he didn't start screaming or
Yeah, he kept
crying.
his cool, and
he
knew he had the field made for what he was doing, so that helps out a lot. But he didn't, panic in that situation, and
it helps when you turn the master switch on.
Yeah, that was in the second video.
Another thing too, like in a small general aviation airplane, if your generator dies, your battery dies, you have no electrical power, your engine's still going to run.
Exactly.
It's the way it is. We're not using the battery to ignite the spark plugs. Those are run off of magnetos. Those are completely separately different. So your engine's still going to run even though you don't have any electrical power. I just want to add that as well.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. But I thought the good point that was made was really know your aircraft, because in a Cessna 172, the flaps are part of the electrical system, right? So if you already had your flaps down and you lose all of your electrical, you can't get those flaps back up if you're going around.
But
so you have to take that into consideration.
Another real good reason why to fly Piper over
or Beechcraft.
But would he have been able to go around though with the flaps out like that? Just wondering.
Yes, but it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been by the standards or the checklist. So
I don't really care. I was just wanting to play that little song.
I was waiting.
I think he made the better of the two decisions there. So
what, to push the button that says go around?
Yes. No.
Thank you.
To land.
To land. Oh, you're talking about the guy in the video. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you guys ever have a problem with the Acme MD-90 as far as electrical problems when we first got those because of the electrical wiring harness? I had a total electrical failure coming out.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Detroit
Thank goodness.
On there. And it, on the back of my neck, the circuit breaker panel's right behind the left seat of this thing. I just felt this huge rush of heat. Everything went dark. And I had to turn on the emergency power, and it tripped off both generators. And we got back on the ground and started talking to the maintenance guys, and there was a problem with these things. With the wiring harnesses were bad, and they just Acme Airlines went and redid all the wiring harnesses on these things. Just because when we first got them, they were actually electrical nightmares because they were sitting somewhere in the desert for years.
Yeah.
And anytime you let any electrical piece of equipment sit for that long, it just can cause problems.
Corrosion.
And it took a while until we got the bugs worked out of these things.
And they have the 90s, as opposed to the 80 series, has a really weird electrical system. They don't the generators, the engine-driven generators, are not mounted on the generator or the engine accessory case. They're actually in the fuselage, and they're called what? Variable speed,
constant frequency
VSCFs that are it's just a weird system, and they were doing that to try to, I think, save weight or something like that. I'm not sure exactly why they went with that system, but they determined after they did that it was not a good idea because they weren't very reliable. But apparently, whatever they've done, I have, knock on wood, I have not had any issues with the.
I haven't had any issues lately either with them. But
boy, I bet that got your attention though, didn't it, Gary?
Well, it's funny. It's when you first check out the captain, like the first 6 months, I call it the aviation gods. Weird stuff happens to you for the first 6 months. And after 6 months, it settles down. But the first 6 months, strange stuff happens to you, and that was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets your attention at night.
Yeah. So those first officers out there, you're flying with a new captain.
Look out.
Yeah, watch out. Might want to call in sick. Okay, I'm not advising that though. Anything else before we move on? Yeah, you need to check out the video. Very well done, and a lot of lessons learned there. Let's move on with Ian. He says, "Hey there, Captain Jeff and ABG crew. It's Ian here again. I flew Acme from Vancouver to Seattle. YYC, isn't that Vancouver?
Calgary.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. To Seattle this weekend to visit the Museum of Flight, amongst other things. I must say I'm beyond impressed with Acme. I booked a standard Joe Blow economy class seat on points, showed up to the gate and politely asked if there were any upgrades available, and got bumped up to first class without having to pay anything extra. The staff on the ground and on the plane were fantastic. I visited the Museum of Flight and absolutely was overwhelmed by the amount of airplanes on display there. I took a pretty interesting photo of an old DC-3 with the B-707 Air Force One and Cord in the background. I've also included a photo of an old 727 in United's classic livery. Please feel free to share this with the APG listeners. If anyone is interested in viewing more of my photography work, my website is, and then we'll put this in the show notes, of course, and you can check out Ian Griffin's wonderful photography. On the flight back from Seattle to Calgary, I again politely asked if there were any upgrades available and was again bumped up to first class. The seats were very comfortable, the staff was fantastic, and this is 4 out of 4 flights in the last year that Acme has impressed me. They are my new favorite airline to travel on. Best regards, Ian Griffin. Thank you, Ian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ringing
we always get a middle seat when we deadhead.
If you're not ready.
That's me tomorrow.
Ask politely to be upgraded from your middle
perhaps
seat.
you're not asking politely.
The only way I get...
And then Acme will be the absolute worst airline when next time that person walks up and says politely, "Can I be upgraded up to first class?" No, you can have a middle seat in the last row right next to the lav.
Oh, and that seat doesn't recline.
Between two fat women.
Ouch. Hey,
I haven't taken a shower in a week.
I know you guys are looking at these photos and we don't really have them up for people to look at, so they'll have to go to the link in the show notes. But I was looking at that United 727 and I was just instantly brought back to, and I know Mike Carroll's probably has been to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. Mm-hmm. With the United 727 that's there and has all the moving parts, and it's pretty interesting to go and see as an exhibit. And I just wanted to say, for those of you who might be in the Chicago area, check out the flight exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry, because it's another good chance
rubbing
to
it in.
See all of that. Oh, rubbing it in.
Captain Jeff sitting over there. He flew that airplane.
I know he did.
Museum. Well, actually,
it's definitely in a museum now. I'm sorry.
That's the reason why they retired it.
Actually, that aircraft has a cool history too, and you can go online and watch the YouTube video where they landed it at Meigs Field. Oh
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it was that aircraft, and then they had to, I forget where they took it. They took it basically across like Lake Michigan and did some modifications to it, and then brought it back across the lake and
across Lakeshore Drive and
yeah,
down to MSI.
yeah, it's a pretty cool aircraft. So
and it's not only just in the Museum of Science and Industry, it's hanging from the ceiling, and the exhibit's on the second floor.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
And the gear move once an hour. You know, you can actually see it and watch it, and you can go inside, and there's a lot of interactive stuff. And they've got one of the engines on display, and
that's
it's
what
really
the
cool.
dinosaurs flew, Mom.
Exactly.
I'm still not bidding at Chicago overnight in January, February. I'm sorry.
You're really.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, you're wise.
That was it.
And I don't know if anyone here in the room's been to the Museum of Flight before, but it's a spectacular museum. Even though it's, I mean, our good friend Captain Nixon on the podcast, we're going to say that it's full of Boeing aircraft. But, I mean, I was out there last November, and me and my parents spent a good 7-8 hours in the museum and didn't see it all. It's spread across 3 buildings on both sides of the street there in Seattle. It is, and, you know, you joke about a 727 being in a museum. They've got number 3 of the 787 in the museum there in Seattle. At the museum
One of the test
one of the tests,
platforms?
yeah. 787 number 3 is in the museum. So it's a fantabulous facility there.
I look forward to seeing it one of these years.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If I ever get to the West Coast.
Yeah. Just do it occasionally, just to realize why you don't want to do it. All right, Larry writes, Geezer from Tulsa, you can almost always go around. I got to play it. By the way, that is sung by Ken Dravis. And I still haven't heard back from Ken whether or not he is happy that I'm playing a little clip of his song or not. But I love your song, Ken, and I hope that it's okay with you. This is, Larry says, a good article from the Bold Method folks about go-arounds, how a go-around can lead to an accident. So we'll put a link to this in the show notes and things to consider when you go around. And you should always consider go around. In fact, most of us will say that when you're flying and you're coming in for a landing, you should always in your mind be thinking what I'm going to do is going to go around, and then be pleasantly surprised when everything is working out and the runway's clear and you can see it and you go, oh, never mind, I think I'll land instead. But if you have the mindset that you're coming in and every time you're going to perform a go-around procedure and you actually have to do it, it's not a big surprise and it's a successful event.
Part of my approach procedures when I'm coming in is, first of all, I look across, make sure the gear flaps, auto brakes, and speed brakes are armed. The next thing I'm doing is the litany for, flaps 15, positive rate, gear up, set, missed approach altitude. And that's just going through my mind. And my fingers are actually on the toggle buttons as I'm coming down the chute. That's just the way I do it.
That's the way you do it.
You guys ever heard of a monitored approach?
Monitored approach.
When I was with another airline whose name will be left out, but their initials were TWA.
Never heard of that.
Never heard of
I can't figure that one out.
But and we didn't do it here, but it was on low on the 7.2 on low visibility approaches. The monitor approach is when the first officer flies, and his job is to go down, hit the decision altitude, and go around. And the captain's looking out the window looking for the picture, and either he's going to take the aircraft away, or the first officer goes around. So 2 things are going to happen. This first officer, all they know is if you're flying, is you're going around, or the airplane's going to be taken away from you. We don't do it here, but I mean, it's
that's kind of an interesting.
It's kind of
I've heard of that. And we don't do
everyone's knowing what they're doing and doing their job, and 1 or 2 things are going to happen. The captain's going to see it and land it, or continue on.
That was the Cat 2 procedures on the DC-9 at another airline with the initials NWA.
Yeah,
that used to be our Cat 3 procedures.
Yeah, but
flying a captain look outside.
And at my region, it was the same thing. It was a monitored approach, where the exact same procedure you're talking about.
Huh.
So did the first officers ever get to land an airplane?
No. Well, it was for lower landing minimums.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It wasn't not every.
No,
okay.
This is just low visibility Cat 2s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still haven't landed an airplane.
No, we see the maintenance write-ups every time you land.
Wow.
There we go. We missed that. Hey, I skipped this again. I keep skipping this because I don't have a tab open with this information. But Bill,
no more bourbon for you.
Said that that show that we were talking about on a previous episode, I don't know how long ago, the City in the Sky, I think it was the name of the series, is on Netflix. He just wanted everybody to know that. So if you have a Netflix subscription.
And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's a 3-part miniseries. It's really well done.
Yeah, it reminds me I have it on my DVR at home. Next Saturday, I need to play that.
Yeah, we could play it while we're eating lunch or something.
Yeah.
There you go. Very cool. Okay. Continuing on, Miss Liz sent us a little bit of feedback. And we talked about this on the last show. I just mentioned it briefly, and I said we'd be talking about it on this show. But we were talking about drones, so I need to find the old drone sound effect. Here we go. All right. This is from blog2.com. Never heard of it. Toronto uses drones to check passenger numbers in HOV lanes. First, they came for our delivery jobs. Then they started cultivating crops, filming movies, forecasting weather, and performing various other formerly human roles. Now the drones want to be cops, too. But can they tell the difference between a real person and a hoodie stuffed with wood, or a mannequin decked out for the Pan Am Games? We'll soon find out, I suppose, when Ontario sics its new fleet of AI-enabled traffic drones on local drivers. And let's see, the Ministry of Transportation has reportedly teamed up with IBM, the University of Toronto, Oakville's The Sky Guys, and Silicon Valley tech firm NVIDIA to better enforce high-occupancy vehicle, i.e. carpool lane, rules on 400 series highways in Ontario, Canada. And I guess these things are going to be flying along, not right over the highway, but off to the side, and using some kind of special optics, I don't know if it's optics or infrared or whatever technologies, to determine whether that stick figure person sitting in your passenger seat is really a human being or not. And if not, you're going to probably get a ticket. So
it's a great use for a drone, honestly.
It is.
And if any pilots that are listening haven't done their Part 107 to get their remote pilot operator certificate with the small UAS rating, it takes about 2 hours. And then you go down to the FISDO and get a new certificate. I did that a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so that's kind of what you have to do if you operate a drone?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to operate a drone commercially, you have to go get a Part 107 commercial.
Oh, for only commercial, though. If you're going to be just a hobbyist.
Yeah, if you want to be a hobbyist, you don't need to do it. But if you want to get paid to use your drone, you need a certificate.
Do you actually have to have a drone before you do that?
No, you don't, because I don't have a drone yet. But yet I got an appointment for a week or two to go get my certificate. It was good.
Okay.
I mean, it's good
I might as well
knowledge.
go get it, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's good common knowledge. And it's Steph, for you, I'll ask them at the FISDO if that counts as my BFR, because I know you're close. I mean, it could be a really
March.
It could be a really cheap new certificate for you to get to not have to do a BFR.
I like it. Well, I was going to do my commercial seaplane, but that'll work too.
Hey, Steph, that might be a really good excuse for me to come on up to Charlotte and give you a BFR, because I charge a lot of money.
Or I could just get my commercial drone certificate. And
or I could charge you nothing. We can just go out for a beer.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, $100 beer instead of hamburger. Okay.
Well, you know.
I think I know who's going to do my BFR in about a couple of months.
Couple months, yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I'm still CFI.
We got
Excellent.
We're going to have to throw some sand into the back of the airplane, but we'll be good.
No, do I count? Can I write it on the back?
I'm not saying for you. I'm not saying.
Don't worry. I'll go to the bathroom that morning. We won't need
I'll write it on the back for free.
They have to defuel the airplane. What are you talking about?
I'm not saying for you. I'm just saying we're two men of size. I mean, we're two pretty big guys. I mean,
why are you telling the world that? Man of size.
They're watching the video.
I'm
going to
also get all these texts and emails from all these ladies now.
Not.
Yeah, like we all do.
Yes, that's why I'm still a CFI, because I can help my
it's the only way you can get ladies
friends out. Do BFRs and IPCs, and I enjoy doing C. I enjoy going out and doing GA flying. It's not something I get to do very often, and so anytime I have the opportunity to go out and do some GA flying, it's always a lot of fun. So that's why I keep my CFI up and current, so I can go out and do do that.
Oh, I just realized GA stands for General Aviation.
It's not Georgia.
Aviation.
I thought it was Georgia the whole darn time.
No.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Okay.
That's your military guys. You have no clue.
Well, that's true. All right, moving on. Frick, our friend in South Africa, writes, hi there, Captain Jeff and crew. I was really falling behind on the episodes due to my job, but now I've found a way to catch up. In the past, I preferred to watch the YouTube episodes. I still do, but now I'm using Podcast Addict and downloading all the missed episodes. As roughly half my day is spent driving, this makes for the ideal time to listen to my favorite group of people. I do have a question, even before the 49s episode. Does it ever get old? Kid regards, Frick, in South Africa.
Jeff gets older.
I get older.
I think you have to ask Colonel Jeff, though, because I think he's been around for the longest of any of us.
I've been around since episode 1. It does not get old.
Yeah,
I still love every episode.
And, doing it. I think that he may be also asking about the fact that, does it get old for us doing these things every week, week in and week out? And I can only speak for myself, but no, it doesn't get old at all. In fact, it's the best part of my week, getting together with friends to talk about aviation. And beer.
And actually, when I'm not here, I'm so jealous of not being able to be involved with the podcast. There's so many times I'm thinking about it. I'm sitting there either working, flying, whatever I'm doing. I'm not with the podcast. I'd much rather be with the podcast and having a good time. And it takes a little work, obviously, but certainly worth it because we get to spend some time with our fellow friends and get to spend a lot of time with the APG community, and especially with the feedback and answering some questions. So, yeah, I miss it. And when I'm not involved and not able to be there, I really miss it a lot. So I look forward to every episode I can be a part of.
So a resounding...
Likewise.
No. It doesn't get old, Frick.
Absolutely not.
Watching, listening, no, it does not get old.
Go ahead, Steph.
I said I've been trying to leave for 3 years now, and I can't figure out how.
Oh, is that what you keep trying to? I keep deleting her email. Sorry.
No. I
always say I'm going to quit tomorrow. It never happens.
Yeah,
Tomorrow never comes.
Dana's comments 100%. This is certainly the highlight of my week. Every week, getting together with you guys, who I consider great friends. I have no idea what just happened there in the background. Why Dana's laughing.
It's just Dana, standard Dana. Don't worry about it.
Bottles clinking.
And
yeah.
But really, it's it's the community, it's the interaction. I mean, if I wasn't a part of all of this, there's so many opportunities that I've had in the past few years that I would have missed out on or never known I could have even been a part of. So I have all of you to thank for that, and I'm really very happy and grateful for all of that. So this will never get old. We'll keep going as long as we can.
As long as we're invited to the wedding.
Yeah.
And by the way, 300 will be our last episode.
That's right.
Okay, moving on.
Can I cry now?
Yeah. What else am I going to do? Go into work?
Just kidding. All right. Hey, Nick wasn't able to join us for tonight's show, but he is here virtually with his latest episode.
We miss you, Nick.
We do. Plain Tales episode called, I think he said, The Charger. Take it away, Nick.
The old pilot's plain tale. The Charger. NATO called it Charger. It was the 60s, and the cool boys had long hair. The girls were in psychedelic tie-dye shirts and mini-skirts, and their dads sported trilby hats. Governments were in a post-war technology race. The US and the USSR were fighting to get the first man onto the moon and also be the first to develop a supersonic transport aircraft. 3 contenders were striving to dominate the futuristic dream of moving champagne-sipping passengers around at speeds and heights only previously experienced by military pilots in fantastic machines whilst wearing complicated safety equipment. The American contender was the Boeing 2707, a Mach 3 250 to 300 seat swing wing design. By 1960, a cool $1 million, over 24 million by today's standards, had been spent, and the overambitious design pared down to a conventional delta-winged airliner carrying 150 passengers. As the European and Soviet aircraft moved forward, the Boeing proposal fell behind schedule, became mired in political controversy and spiraling costs. With little more than mock-ups to show for over a decade's work, Boeing gave up. The financial burden nearly broke the company and forced them to cut their employee numbers by more than 60,000. The Boeing SST became known as the aeroplane that almost ate Seattle. As a result of the mass layoffs, and with so many people moving away from the city in search of work, a billboard was erected near SeaTac Airport in 1971 that read, "Will the last person leaving Seattle turn the lights out?" The consortium building Concorde progressed, not without problems, but with a realistic chance of success, whilst in the Soviet Union things were far from pretty. It was 1961 that Khrushchev first heard about the Anglo-French supersonic aircraft. He told Andrei Tupolev that they could not let the West get ahead in this technology, and gave him the unenviable task of creating a supersonic passenger aircraft in less time. The Soviets realized that they were some 2 to 3 years behind in the race, and there was only one way to reduce that kind of lead: to cheat. Now, here is a controversial part of this story. It was the spring of 1963, and the USSR Spy Network, Directorate T to be precise, was instructed to find out about the airframe and engines of Concorde. Information was recorded on microfilm and placed in towel dispensers, bins, cigar tins, and toothpaste tubes in order to smuggle the valuable secrets back to the Soviet Union. In the early 1960s, Sergei Pavlov was the chief of the Paris office for Aeroflot, the Soviet airline, and was one of the main sources. His job brought him into contact with all kinds of aviation people across France, and that was a good thing, because he was a spy. It wasn't until 1964 before it was realized that the Soviets had penetrated the Concorde program. Everything had been examined by the Soviets, even down to tire scrapings from the runway. At last, however, French military intelligence caught up, and on February 1st, 1965, Pavlov was captured and deported, but not before the French used the unsuspecting spy to confuse the Russians. They fed him false intelligence, including the marvelous rubber compound used for Concorde's tires. They gave him the formula for a substance, something like bubble gum. That wasn't the last of it, however, as he was followed by a spy codenamed Ace. This agent was an aeronautical engineer recruited in 1967 and named Fabiu. In the drive to gather Concorde intelligence, he was Moscow's most powerful weapon. For 15 years, Sergei Fabiu remained undetected, working with a network of communist sympathizers and paid informants. He supplied the Soviets with thousands of technical documents. Ace handed over more than 90,000 pages of detailed technical specifications on new aircraft, including Concorde, the Super VC-10, and the Lockheed L-1011. The agent was just one of more than a dozen spies operating within Europe and passing commercial and technical secrets to the Russians at the height of the Cold War. One thing was for sure: the Charger, or more correctly the Tupolev Tu-144, was strikingly similar to Concorde. However, It's one thing to have a set of plans, it's another to use an existing manufacturing infrastructure to build it. What's more, Tupolev was a very skilled aircraft designer. He was up against a punishing timetable, so where possible, he used existing Soviet technology as well as innovation to overcome the problems he was presented with. The prototype was a full-scale demonstrator, but lacked several design features that Concorde used. Unable to exactly replicate the wing shape, the 144 couldn't get the approach speeds low enough. Tupolev needed to have the trailing edge elevons deflected downwards like flaps. This caused a nose-down pitching moment that was countered by attaching two small retractable moustache canards just behind the cockpit, which had fixed double-slotted slats and retractable double-slotted flaps. The canards gave lift to the nose to counter the downward pitch of the lowered elevons. A workmanlike solution, but not nearly as elegant as the beautifully shaped Concorde wing, which at high angle of attack generated a stable ram's horn vortex. This vortex created the low speed lift needed and gave Concorde a considerably lower approach speed. By 1968, Tupolev had caught up with the makers of Concorde, but not without some considerable compromises, particularly in the areas of braking, such that the 144 relied on a braking parachute, and engine control, and they worked day and night to beat Concorde into the air. Despite the difficulties, on the 31st December 1968, the Tu-144 took off on its maiden flight 2 months before its European rival. It continued to progress faster when it first went supersonic on the 5th of June 1969, and the next year it became the first commercial transport to exceed Mach 2. However, despite the successful completion of these milestones, all was not well with the aircraft, which had now been dubbed Concordski due to its similarity to its European equivalent. The engine design did not allow for supersonic cruise without the use of afterburner, which reduced its range considerably. The aircraft also had extremely long engine intakes, as the designers erroneously believed that this would help prevent engine surges, a considerable problem with the early versions. There was doubt concerning its low-speed handling characteristics, and it had a very poor serviceability record. Regardless, the second production aircraft was programmed to display alongside Concorde at the 1973 Paris Air Show. The Paris Show was, and remains, one of the most prestigious events for aircraft manufacturers, so it was a matter of enormous pride that the Soviets show their aircraft and display to the world their technical prowess. This aircraft had been considerably modified when compared with the first prototype. It now had engine nacelles split on either side of the fuselage and the retracting canards. There had been fierce competition between the Concorde and the Tu-144, and the Soviet pilot, Mikhail Kozlov, had bragged that he would outperform the Concorde. "Just wait till you see us fly," he was quoted as saying, "then you'll see something." On the final day of the show, Concorde flew what some described as a less than inspiring demonstration, and it was believed that Kozlov was determined to prove how much better his aircraft was. In front of a crowd numbering 250,000, amongst which were luminaries from all parts of the world of aviation, including Alexei Tupolev himself. On board was a crew of 6, which included the deputy chief designer and an engineer major general. Whilst on the runway, Kozlov had been informed that his display time had been cut in half, and perhaps this change had some bearing on what happened next. deafened by the thunderous roar of 4 reheated NK-144 turbofans, the sleek airliner leapt airborne. Kozlov brought the aircraft round for a pass with the gear down and canards extended, and then with the engines at full power, pitched up into a steep climb. At around 2,000 feet, the Tu-144 pitched and rolled rapidly into a steep dive. The airframe broke up in midair, the left wing separating first, and then the rest of the aircraft disintegrated and crashed into an area of housing, destroying 15 of them. All on board died, plus 8 more on the ground, including 3 children. 60 received severe injuries. In the aftermath of the crash, theories abounded as to the cause. Since the aircraft was a prototype, the investigation was conducted by the French military. The accident data recorder was apparently destroyed in the crash, so a great deal was left up to supposition. Over the years, a number of possible causes have become popular. Unbeknown to the Soviet crew, a French military Mirage fighter was flying in the vicinity of the display aircraft, apparently trying to photograph the new moustache canards in flight. It's possible that, surprised by its presence, Kozlov maneuvered to avoid it and overstressed or stalled the Tupolev. However, it may have been that the abrupt maneuver was merely an attempt to impress the crowd. Some thought that a camera given to the co-pilot to record the display might have been dropped and subsequently jammed the controls, preventing Kozlov from pulling out of the dive. It has also been revealed that the Tu-144 was equipped with experimental flight control equipment that was supposed to be disabled and covered for the flight. However, in the wreckage, this equipment was neither disabled nor covered, leading some to believe that it was being used improperly to improve the maneuverability of the aircraft for the benefit of the display. Whatever the reason, the appalling disaster, in full view of the world's press, was a devastating blow to the future of the aircraft, and it marked the beginning of the end for Konkordsky. The S version went into service in December 1975, flying mail and freight between Moscow and Alma-Ata, and a passenger service commenced late in 1977. The early flights showed up the Tu-144's appalling serviceability. During 102 flights, lasting 181 hours, the Tu-144S suffered more than 226 failures, 80 of them in flight. 80 of the snags were serious enough to cancel or delay the flight. It became common to blame non-existent poor weather for the flight cancellations. Failures included a cabin decompression and an engine exhaust duct overheat, and eventually it became a requirement for Alexei Tupolev and the 2 Soviet vice ministers of aviation to be personally present at Moscow airport before every departure to review the aircraft's condition and release it for flight. On one particular flight, Captain Alexander Larin recalled problems with 22 of the 24 major systems on board. 8 systems failed before takeoff, but since there were a large number of foreign journalists on board, it was decided to risk flying rather than face the embarrassment of cancellation. The problems continued to multiply, and en route, the Tupolev Bureau's Crisis Center informed them that they would have to land on the right undercarriage leg alone. The Soviet leader Brezhnev himself was informed, since there was expected to be significant political fallout. With the accumulation of failures, an alarmingly loud siren went off after takeoff that couldn't be silenced. Finally, out of frustration, a passenger's pillow was stuffed into the horn to soften the blaring noise. In the end, the flight passed off safely when the gear was successfully lowered. Other problems for the passengers came from the very high noise levels in the cabin caused by the engines and air conditioning. It was so loud that passengers could only talk to their immediate neighbour with difficulty, and those 2 seats apart couldn't communicate at all, even when screaming at each other. Only 14 production aircraft were ever built, 9 S models and 5 D models. With the Soviet officials fearful of a major crash, it flew only enough to claim that it was filling a regular schedule. In the end, only 55 passenger flights were performed, carrying an average of 58 passengers per flight. Then a brand new Tu-144D suffered an in-flight failure that led to a crash landing, killing 2 of the crew. And after that, the pride of the Soviets' fleet was only used as a very fast, enormously expensive freighter. In total, 102 flights were performed, but soon major cracks were discovered in the airframes of the prototypes, which led to the end of commercial flights. The last scheduled service was made on the 1st of June 1978, and whilst the Concorde continued to operate safely and consistently for years, its namesake slipped quietly out of sight. The world's only other supersonic airliner was gone. In the end, it was almost certainly the rushed design and production of the Tu-144 that led to its demise. The aircraft's development was strongly driven by the ideological and politically motivated haste to beat Concorde into the air, as if the race were more important than the overall success of the aircraft. When Concorde carried its first passenger, it was the most tested aircraft ever produced, having flown some 5,000 hours. The total testing time of the 144 was less than 800.
Another outstanding Plain Tales installment by the wonderful Captain Nick Anderson. Thank you, sir. Oh,
And
got
I
the air
think
conditioning on.
Yeah, and I think he wanted to, hey, Jeff?
Yeah.
He wanted to thank Pilot Pip for suggesting that topic.
Steph, I told you we're never supposed to mention that guy's name on the show.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot.
No, he did. He said, make sure you let everybody know that Pilot Pip suggested that he talk about that airplane, and also the fact that Pip was not the only one that has requested a Plain Tales regarding that airplane. But Pip was the last one, I think.
Great job,
I believe so. Yeah.
Captain Nick. Unbelievable.
As always.
Another great Plain Tales.
Probably one of the best I've heard in the last half hour. People in the chat room are going, oh yeah, what was it about, Jeff?
We saw what you guys were doing.
I was listening to some of it.
I'm glad there wasn't a quiz. I now have something to listen to on episode 299.
That's right.
Makes 2 of us.
And by the way, I always listen to these before the show, so I know what it's about. Well, okay, most of the time I listen to it before. To be truthful. Okay, anyway, moving on. Let's see here. We talked about Frick. Stefan writes in, and you want to take that one, Michael?
Yeah, which one?
The one about crashing a 727 for science?
Oh, absolutely.
He's clicking feverishly over there on his iPad.
It's loading.
This is a mess. We're probably not going to release the show, actually. So if you're watching this live,
We made an attempt at 299 before 300, but
we'll just pretend that we did a 299.
Pretend.
This is from Stefan. He says, thanks for a great podcast. Here's an interesting documentary about crashing a 727 from science. And this is back from 2012, where the Discovery Channel basically took a 727 and removed the center floorboards and added basically a remote autopilot into the control cables, because 727 is also a fly-by-wire aircraft. It's just made of steel, opposed to copper. And they had a helicopter chase this airplane, and they crashed it pretty much at a level altitude into the desert and filmed it to see what it would look like. And they had some test dummies strewn throughout the cabin.
And Jeff survived.
I flew the airplane, Jeff, but I wasn't a passenger on this particular flight. Thank you very much.
They had some test dummies in there to see, they're trying to answer the question, where's the safest part on the airplane? Well, that always depends on the attitude you crash at, but anything, it's basically a good documentary to go through and watch. He says in here the crash is exactly pretty much right about 46 minutes, and the 50-second mark is where the crash is. But the whole hour of the documentary, from what I remember, is acquiring the airplane, looking at the paint job. I think it's a former Champion Airlines aircraft, which was a Minneapolis-based charter company. And they took the airplane and how they had it set up and all their stuff, and they had some guy in a helicopter chasing the airplane, crash the airplane in the desert so they could film it, and they had cameras on the inside. So overall, it's a great documentary to go ahead and watch if you have an hour to kill.
And if you are a 727 lover, as I am, it's very, very difficult to watch them crash a perfectly good airplane.
Almost like jumping out of one.
Yes, almost. You have to be crazy to do that.
I would argue that's not the same thing.
No.
Fair enough.
I've done it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Crash an airplane?
No.
Oh, the other.
Close.
That's a normal landing for Dana.
That's every flight.
Wow. Wow. What a rough crowd.
It is.
Wow.
All right, moving on. Jay says, hey, Captain Jeff, this email has been a long time in the pipeline for me. I've been listening to your great podcast for about 7 months now, and the only reason I haven't left feedback before now is that I really, really wanted to get through as many episodes as I possibly could, diligently starting at episode 1 and unwaveringly listening. Let me try that again. Unwaveringly listening until now. I'm on episode 102 as it stands. However, I've now decided the time has come to leave feedback for the first time, and this is an important time for me. I'll explain why shortly. Despite my initial wish to listen in purely chronological order, I've decided to compromise and download to the current episode whilst moving through the back catalog on the days, weeks when you haven't released a new one yet. A little about me. I'm 31 years old and have just made the decision to start down the road to obtaining my ATPL. Despite being fascinated with aviation and airlines for years, I have thus far procrastinated and delayed making a decision, an investment on whether or not to pursue my passion. I'm originally from the UK, but I now live in Australia, having moved out here to start my flight training. My plan is to work on my licenses and ratings full-time, although I'm not technically in an ab initio program. Part of the reason that I wanted to write to you is that in doing my research for the various paths to the cockpit, I realized there are a huge range of options for aspiring pilots, and some are much better than others. When looking globally at different licenses, authorities, training organizations, governing bodies, etc., it struck me that I couldn't find a resource that would allow me to compare different countries around the world, associated costs, and the pros and cons of flight training in those respective locations. Just a couple of examples. In the U.S., you have a relatively cheap flight training, but the hour requirements and the degree recommendation for the majors make it a less attractive option for international students. In the UK, you can go straight into a jet-ready frozen ATPL program ab initio with no college degree required, but most programs are approximately double the cost in the U.S. Or of the U.S. In South Africa, you can get one of the lowest cost ICAO ATPLs in often perfect flying weather, but may struggle to gain employment back in the EU or US afterwards. Believe me, it took a lot of time and reading to get my head around all of this. If any of your other listeners have similar questions or experiences, I'd be really happy to share what I've found out so far in terms of the global training options. In terms of your podcast, I just wanted to say it's my absolute favorite, and it's such a great resource for those of us who aspire to be in your position. You don't skimp on the details of pilot life, and I'm sure I can speak for many others when I say hearing about your job and the ups and occasional downs of a pilot's schedule is super informative and interesting. I have a whole bunch of questions, but mindful of the length of the feedback already, I shall be satisfied with simply having introduced myself and passed on my gratitude. If you're interested to hear my experience of current day flight training in a foreign country, I'll be more than happy to check in and let you know how it's going. Warm regards, clear skies and tailwinds, Jay from Sydney, Australia. Wow, Jay, thank you for taking the time to pen that very, very informative piece of feedback. And yeah, please do keep us apprised as to what you are doing, what journey, what path you've taken. And because there are a lot of people listening to this show who want to do the job that we're doing, and they want to know what the best option is. And, you know, the fact that you've done the research in the different countries and the pros and cons regarding all those different plans, I think that many of the people listening to this show would really benefit from the research you've done and the decision you've made. And I'm not totally clear from what you've said in this email, you know, what you're actually doing as far as, except that it sounds like you're still in Australia and you're kind of going with that journey and that route. But,
well, I will say, I think that's probably our number one piece of feedback in terms of asking for advice is, hey, I'm so-and-so years old. I am either just getting started at a very young age or somewhere much older than that. And I'm wondering what your advice for me is. So we're always looking for feedback from people who have been there and done that and different perspectives. So definitely keep in touch and let us know how things are going.
Right.
I mean, he has looked at all the different options throughout the world. You have to really pin down where you want to fly and where you want to work, and that will help to isolate where you're going to go ahead and do your training in or build your experience. That will make a huge difference in where you end up flying. Because if you want to fly in the States, then come here to the States, do your training and build your time, and then come to the regional ranks. Well, you wouldn't be able to come to the military ranks here in the States, but regional ranks, the opportunities are there. But if you want to fly in Australia, do your training there and complete it there and work your way up. Just like same people, same thing for people over in Europe. They tend to build their experience there. I actually saw an ad for British Airways. Regional that's looking to hire captains off the street, and they're having an open house this coming week in the Midlands. So, there are worldwide opportunities. They're continuing to grow. So just look at where you want to fly and figure out based on that where you're going to continue your training and complete your training and build your experience.
And from like the whole flying aspect, just all in general aviation flying. I think we learned through the podcast and the airline pilot guide community, the United States has got just a great general aviation community, and we have a very open and free and cheap freedom to go flying. So much so that there are airlines from China that are sending their new hire cadets to the United States to get their privates and initial training and then multi-engines in a very quick fashion, to then get shipped back to China to go fly A320s, and then worldwide, I've looked at Ryanair and all that, working midnights at work. I tend to surf the internet when my fleet's asleep, when you look at countries.
Don't admit that publicly.
Well,
he works for Acme, and it's okay.
Okay.
At Acme.
Yeah, I mean,
when he's asleep too.
Hey,
they're all asleep up there. I can tell you.
I'm not asleep.
They don't answer the phone.
I've actually witnessed it, so I'm the only person in the room that's actually witnessed what happens after midnight, other than Mike.
It's one of those things where for me as a U.S. citizen, I can't just go apply to Ryanair to be a first officer on a 737 and just get flown the crud out of me because I don't have a right to work in Ireland. I mean, that's what really comes down to is where is your right to work come to when you're trying to apply internationally? Do you have the right to try to apply for a job? And what that's doing by the countries is trying to preserve the jobs for their own citizens opposed to trying to outsource all the jobs to other people flooding into the country. So, I mean, those are all things that you have to look at.
I mean, take Captain Nick, for example. I mean, he's from Australia, isn't he? Is he not?
He's dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Dual citizenship, but yeah, I mean, he flew down in Australia, and he's also a British aviator. So it's you have to look at that. You're absolutely correct.
Go ahead, Gary.
But the three guys with gray hair in here, and we've all three of us have went through the military route, and yeah, I'm looking at you, Jeff. And it was a lot easier back in our day to
Wait
get.
a minute, I have gray hair.
Yeah,
You have
I'm
no hair.
not
There's a
that far
difference.
behind you guys. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
there's
5
a
of us with
difference.
gray hair in here.
Yeah.
Shoot.
But it was a lot easier for us. I joined the military during the Reagan buildup, and you couldn't swing a dead cat without finding another aviator. And if you had the tenacity to keep going, they would train you. And it was part of the time back there. And also the civilian route, we had flying checks, we had pipeline patrol. Things are done by drones now. We don't fly checks anymore. So the analogy is kind of the bridge has been blown up for these guys from the initial training to how do I get 5,000 hours. Well, when you get 5,000 hours, you have a job. But how are you going to get 5,000
Yeah.
hours? I have no idea.
That's the tough nut
And that's
crack.
the hard. And if you can figure that one out, that's the $64,000 question.
But I will say the last show that we talked about the fact that there are a couple of proposals now going before Congress to try to do, because the airlines are going, help, we can't get anybody to fly their airplanes. We're having to cancel flights.
Yeah,
and
it's just not Ryanair.
no,
No,
it's
and it's not. And you guys mentioned in the last show, I listened on the way up here, you're going to start seeing the absolute shortage of pilots at the lowest level. And we're already seeing it now at the CFI level. It's hard to find a CFI.
Yeah. Oh, there's one.
I know Dana's right here. But
I'm right here.
Glad I know Dana. It might be a far done. Woohoo!
Absolutely, no problem. We'll take care of it.
You need to up your rates now. Yeah.
I mean, but like honestly,
From higher than free?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, but I honestly am thinking about going to get my CFI, get it done, and just starting that just to be a CFI. I mean, I'm so far into the industry now, I can't jump to the airlines to be an airline pilot.
Yes, you can.
Not with 3 little kids.
Yes, you can.
Well, I can, but my wife might say something different.
I had 2 when I started with the airlines. 2 little kids.
2 hours?
No, 2
Oh.
little kids. Well, I had no hours of commercial
How old are
time.
you?
34.
Oh my God.
That's
Really?
all.
We'll talk off air.
Okay.
He's the baby
Really?
of the crowd here.
I know,
I don't know
kidding.
about
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I'm
named
really
person
need
in
to
the back of
talk.
the room there,
I'm not the baby by much, Steph.
like a year.
There we go. Anyway, in all, there's worldviews in the political things you have to look at, and it's where you have the right to work with this feedback.
Yeah, the whole Ryanair thing is crazy with the way they've set up their pilot contracts and everything else. Nick,
Them and NAI.
Same way.
Nick, tweeted an article link earlier today, a couple of them, talking about how the whole thing is set up, and you basically are an independent contractor, and it's like, what?
Well,
That's crazy.
There's another one that's a jet, and rhymes the color blue.
Uh-huh.
That's how they started here in the
That's
States.
how they started here in
Yeah, but at least
NAI,
they're...
I have to clarify that because anybody that's listening to the show may not know what NAI is. Norwegian Air International. They're another one that's using offshore contract pilot hiring that's not completely and totally legitimate, and that's part of the reason why we're
and one of the reasons
we're
that
fighting that.
You look at why the airline unions in the United States are fighting NAI so frantically is you look at the United States merchant marine fleet.
Yep.
It's diminished 100-fold because you have all these foreign flag carriers, and it's the same kind of setup as NAI and Ryanair. They're individual contracts, and they can pay them dirt cheap and just undercut us completely. So the U.S. merchant and everything's all the ships are registered in weird places like Liberia. Like, they can afford a merchant marine fleet.
And going back to the Ryanair thing, they're worried about company loyalty and stuff, and their pilots jumping ship. Their pilots have had to pay for everything. There's been no gift to earn the loyalty. I mean, their pilots have literally had to pay for everything out of their own pockets to get the opportunity to fly a 737. But there's been no gift of there's nothing from the company back to the pilot on their own.
But the CEO, Michael O'Leary, talked about goodies that he's been giving the pilots.
Yeah.
Peanuts?
Yeah, maybe.
Peanuts and pretzels.
A seat, a priceless seat with a view out the front.
There you go.
I mean, it just comes back to one basic fact, and that is that the flying public has an expectation. And that expectation is when they get on an aircraft, they get on that aircraft and they expect to get to their destination safely. We, as professional airline and aviation, what we do every day is make it seem seamless. However, what people don't realize, and even management to a certain extent don't realize, is how we as professional aviators work diligently to make sure that every flight is safe, all the details are taken care of. And it's almost to our own detriment because we do it so well that it's not respected as much as it should be.
No, it's a two-edged sword. We try to make it seem like to kind of alleviate people's anxiety that is, oh, there's this no big deal, it's easy to do and everything else. But on the other hand, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because what we do, even though it kind of seems easy to us because we've been doing it for so long, it's not easy to do. It's just like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon performing those procedures, those operations. It's easy for them because they've been doing it over and over and over again in their lives. They've been trained to do it. But, if you and I went in there and tried to do brain surgery or heart surgery, it wouldn't go very well.
Stick a needle in somebody's back like
I'll just
Steph
say
does.
this much. I don't think there are as many airline passengers going on Google or Wikipedia or whatever the airline equivalent of WebMD is, and coming in to tell you guys in the cockpit how to fly the aircraft as what happens.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely.
No. You get the passenger who comes up front because you must have been in the Navy with that landing, and I'm thinking, you have no idea what a Navy landing's like, buddy.
I mean, and for the four guys in front of me who are airline pilots and the one back here behind me,
he's hiding over there.
Yeah, he's hiding.
He's the smart one.
You guys,
he's a newbie.
You guys don't get paid for routine. You guys get paid for your 6 month or 9 month, whatever your airline's check is, to go in the box and try to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you guys get paid for.
And
when it happens for real.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And when it happens for real. You guys get paid for the engine outs. You guys get paid for the V1 cuts. You guys get paid for the multiple system failures and the knowledge of your aircraft. I mean, routine is good. Boring is good in the airline industry.
Well,
boring is wonderful.
Here's the deal. I mean, there's a lot of parallels between the medical field and the professional aviation field, being an airline pilot, and that is that there's an expected outcome. When a doctor says you have a 10% chance of this outcome happening, you go into that surgery and you say, okay, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I have a 90% chance of having success. And doctors in a set environment with a set circumstance, the weather's not changing, got a whole support staff around them, and they're responsible for that one life on the table at that one time. Whereas an airline pilot, you have a completely different circumstance with the same expected outcome, and that is that when you get on the airplane, you expect to get to your point B in one piece without any problems, but there's weather changing. You have a support crew on the outside, but when push comes to shove, and Jeff Skiles, which I always use his name first, and Captain Sully uses a perfect example. They made the best of a bad situation. That's what we do every day with an expected outcome. But the difference is when a doctor is working on one patient, they're working on one patient at one time. When we're flying an airplane, we have 160 or 180, 190 lives in our hands, and every decision we make, just like when you have somebody on the operating table, is for death. And we take that for granted because most of the time we have hours and hours and hours of boredom punctuated by a few moments of pure terror.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. So what we're trained to do, and what Mike alluded to, is that when we go into training, we kind of sit back, we evaluate what's going on, we make a decision, the best decision we can possibly make with the current situation presented to us, and what we do is we go forward with it. So people spend hours and hours and hours as pilots doing nothing, and as far as people if you could see what goes on behind the cockpit door, people think we don't do anything. We have the autopilot on, and we just sit there brain dead. No, we're always listening to the radio. We're always looking at the engine instruments. We're always checking, our altitudes. There's a lot of things that we do that we make look easy, and people think that we don't work very hard, but yet we are always working. We are always on. When talked about earlier, when I was flying with the guy, listen, I was listening to him, I was listening to air traffic control, I was doing all my reports. It was very fatiguing. And as airline professionals, we have everybody's lives in our hands, and we take that very serious. What we do is we make it look easy, and that's our own detriment, I think.
I compare it, my brother-in-law does home improvements, and it's the same kind of story. I watch what he does, and I am so impressed. I mean, I can't do anything like that. And he makes it look so easy, but I know he's dealing with issues every time he, opens up a wall and goes, well, this isn't wired right, or, where did that stud come from? What's this thing doing here? How did they, what did this guy do? And so it's the same in every career field. It's like, we're no different than we're good at what we do because we have been trained to do so, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman, a soldier, it doesn't matter. You are trained to do a certain thing.
I take offense to that. Lawyer.
Well, I'll say that's true.
Okay.
All right.
This
next,
is
next subject.
The hate mail goes to Dana Colton at gmail.com.
Junk at airlinepilotguy.com.
Yes. 301 at airlinepilotguy.com.
Oh my goodness. The thing I liked about it is he did his homework on where he was going to do his flight training, and it is not as expensive in the States, but it's a lot of time, lot of time. So it ends up being more expensive.
Yeah.
So I think he's made the right choice. He's done his homework, and it would be great to hear more feedback from him.
Yes.
To spread the word.
Yeah, and if you can use the time you build in the States for the economical factor, and then use that time to transition it to back to your country, that would be great too.
Absolutely. Excellent. Way to bring it all the way around, Jeff.
We got out there.
Yes.
You're a professional. All right.
I'm saving my watch.
Yeah. All right. We have some audio feedback from Pi. And let me read what he said to me before I actually play his feedback. He says, here's a link. Excuse me, the beer's trying to get out of my system here.
What?
Yes. Here is a link for an audio feedback to download that you may or may not like to include on your show. I apologize. It's a bit long, but then again, so is your show. So I guess...
Touche!
Wait a minute. I didn't get to the best part. He goes, it's a bit long. Then again, so is your show. So I guess we're even. Take it away, Pi. Touche. Wow. Touche.
Hello, you plain people out there in podcast land. I'm Pi from Finland, and I have actually done podcasting myself for the past 12 years. Ironically, I'm really fascinated by aviation and everything to do with flying planes, especially airlines, but I actually hate flying. I really, really, really don't fly, don't go on trips because planes, they're a very uncomfortable way to travel. I like to travel on trains. I like to fly planes on a simulator where things are nice and settled and I don't have to queue anywhere and I don't need a passport or anything like that. Actually, I'm not sure if I'd like flying if I were to fly the plane myself. I've wondered about that, but unfortunately I don't think flying is an option for me for an interesting reason. I'm actually a transgender individual, and there's a lot of issues around that. Unfortunately, the medical establishment is, for some reason, is very, very, very unsure about how to treat gender non-conforming people, so I'm not sure if I'd get the medical. And even if I did, Finland is a very, very progressive place, and I meet relatively little discrimination on a day-to-day basis, but what the places around me aren't quite that. So if I were to enter airline flying, I'd probably have to fly to places like, I don't know, Russia, where they've actually banned transgender people from driving cars because they don't like transgender people very much. So I don't know how they'd react to a transgender person landing an Embraer or an Airbus in the, being like, "Hey, I can't drive your cars, but do you mind if I park this massive airplane right here?" "Yeah, thanks." I might get some problems in immigration. Ironically, one of the places where I don't think I could travel is the United States, because there's been quite a lot of issues with people with, let's say, non-traditional biology or body parts, and that's something that I just really don't want to try, and not to mention flying to great Eastern and Western hubs like Dubai or Doha or places like that. I just, yeah, no. They really wouldn't like me there. So I'm living vicariously through your podcast, and I'm really enjoying the amount of minutiae I get from your show. A bit rambly, this, but I was wondering, Captain Nick, you fly the wide-body Airbuses, and we've talked about the kind of planes that the other folks in your panel have flown before in the airline world. But has Captain Nick always flown the wide-body Airbuses in the civilian world, obviously, or is there some other airliners in your past? That would be very interesting to hear. And yes, I do prefer the Airbuses. I was thinking, since if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, maybe there should be something similar for Airbus, like if it ain't a bus, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave this to Captain Nick. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Pi. That was really interesting feedback, and I think I can answer for Captain Nick. No, he has not ever flown any other piece of, well, any type of equipment. I had to watch my language. Other than the Airbus line of airliners. Thank you.
And only
and the
330s
wide
and
body
340s.
ones.
Yeah,
Wide
only
body,
done
yep.
330s and 340s.
Right. So a very limited exposure to. Oh, that's not another bad word to use. I'm sorry. What was that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody vibrating.
It's my. I don't know, but I love it.
It was me.
Anyway, yeah, no, he's shared this with us in the past. His father flew the 747, and he really wanted to fly the 747 when he got hired by Acme Red, but they didn't have a spot for him to do that, and they did have a spot for the A330 and A340 series, and so that's what he flies, and he loves. But no, that's it. That's all he's flown. Is the
is as stupid does.
Yeah. So what did he say? If it ain't Boeing, it ain't going. And then he said he wants to come up with something for Airbus. If it ain't Airbus, then make a fuss. Is that what he said?
Oh,
Stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of cut out for me, so I was looking forward to it. I was like, ooh, maybe he's got a good.
Yeah, it's not as good as.
Yeah.
Got to work on that.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's a Airbus.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You want to
Yeah, everybody
all the-
here,
all the Boeing.
it's kind of unanimous here in this room. It's Boeing all the way.
No.
Well, no.
McDonald- Am I muted? Am I muted? No. Okay.
No, but I'll mute you if you like.
Yeah, we
No,
should.
no, don't do that. No, sorry.
Okay.
No, if it's not McDonnell Douglas, that's all I have to say because it's truly fly-by-wire.
It is 3/8 inch stainless
Steel,
steel.
you
Yeah.
know.
So's my Beechcraft
Yeah.
and my Cessnas. that I've flown.
Cessnas.
Yeah.
If anybody hits
Vipers.
an EMP, guess what? The only airplane left to fly in the sky? Mad Dog.
MD-88.
And
VFR, yeah.
and all the general aviation airplanes out there, right?
A few of them.
Yeah.
Hey, the
Yep.
last Airbus plane will be flown out of the desert by an MD-88 crew.
Probably right.
That's what we said about the DC-9 too, but
Well, basically, what we're flying is we're flying a DC-9.
yeah, I know.
Well, my type
Yeah.
rating says anyways, yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
You have a type rating?
I paid for it.
That's what I thought.
Hey, do you guys have a 88 or MD-90 type rating?
nope.
No, it's
I don't either.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
DC-9.
DC-9. Okay, never flown a DC-9, but I have a DC-9 type rating.
You've flown a DC-988.
I fly it every day, don't I? Let's see, Captain Troy. This is interesting stuff. My name's Captain Troy. I fly the Q400 for a Canadian operator. I'm currently deadheading to Toronto for my biannual company-sponsored trip to the Hydraulic Intimidator. I really hope the company has got it fixed this time, since on my last sim session this summer, just about every system failed or caught fire at some point. I have confidence our maintenance department has all the snags resolved by now.
Sounds like a sim session.
That's exactly what he's describing. I've been enjoying the podcast, the first I've ever subscribed to. Thank you. The first episode I heard was the solar eclipse episode, and I've been hooked ever since. I listen to each episode when it's released, and in my spare time, I've gone all the way to the first episode and started to catch up.
Wait,
Ooh.
you have spare time
Yes,
after
I'm gonna say I'm-
listening to one?
Wait,
Amazing.
what is that when you go back to the first episode
Something
called?
about syndromes.
Some kind of
Syndromes, yes.
APG
Syndrome.
There's no cure, Captain Troy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
APG syndrome.
All right. Let's see. Let me see if I can find where I left off here. I think I'm about episode 17. No spoilers, please.
Not a chance.
Wow, spoilers? I mean, we usually use those to help slow
Yes.
the airplane.
I have a question for the crew and any listeners. I've been wearing prescription glasses for the past few years, and it's time to get a new pair. I generally look for a pair with the thinnest possible armband, as I get headaches from thick banded glasses. Years ago, I came across a pair of Maui Jims that I fell in love with, but unfortunately, they only make polarized lenses. I've just accepted that I couldn't have them, and have had to settle for other glasses ever since. After putting a rant on social media about how disappointed I am that every time I find a pair of glasses I like, I find out that they only come in polarized lenses. I was contacted by several coworkers who have told me they've been wearing polarized lenses for years. I was under the impression they weren't allowed. I look online, and although they are not recommended, I see no regulation banning their use. My coworkers told me they haven't had any issues in the Q400 with polarized lenses. They report that sometimes you have to change the orientation of our iPad EFB from portrait to landscape or vice versa, and the first officer's ARCDU radio can be hard to see, but thankfully I have my own. Many years ago, I tried a friend's pair of sunglasses that were polarized, and the cockpit windshield had a very bad distortion, looking like someone poured gasoline all over the windshield. Let's see. No, that's not good. I know I could not fly like that. Some of the electronic instruments we also were not readable due to the polarization. My question is, has anyone else used polarized glasses without issues? No.
Nope.
No.
None of us.
Yes.
Yes?
You have it?
One pair in
GA airplanes
particular.
are fine.
Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But she's flying GA.
Yeah.
GA, not the modern technology, but if you go back to the old technology, that's
No, I have always had problems with. I know we haven't finished reading his feedback here, but I've always had problems with Maui Jim's sunglasses with their polarized lenses. But more recently, I did buy one pair of Ray-Ban polarized lenses, and I had zero problem with them. Whereas with the same pair of, or it flying in the same aircraft with Maui Jims, I would have had a problem with some of the screens, especially on
advertising.
Yeah, it probably is. They probably
every time I've used polarized lenses, it's like, oh crap! I mean,
they're the only
terrible.
ones I've never had a problem with.
Oh,
I question as to how polarized they really are, but they were okay. I could actually use them. So
I will tell you that, and I'm not advertising for any particular manufacturer,
right?
But Ray-Ban, as far as their optics go, with their non-polarized, fantastic for the Aviator. I have had absolutely no issues. Of course, a lot of guys wear Serengetis, but polarized. Yeah, I wear nothing but polarized lenses when I'm riding my motorcycle, when I'm on driving my car around, when I'm on the lake, etc., etc. I love polarized lenses, but in the cockpit they just don't work.
Okay.
These are my favorite sunglasses.
Oh, I can't see you, but what are you doing?
Oh,
wearing my
aviators.
They're aviators.
Ah, Ray-Bans.
Ray-Bans, and they're non-polarized
with a fade lens.
Yeah, they're kind of bluish, but I agree with Dana. These are perfect for everything I need for flying.
I mean, I got to tell you what. I mean, as far as any sunglass out there, Luxottica. Am I not close enough? There we go. I'm sorry. I'm trying to share my microphone this evening, so I'm into sharing. So anyways, as far as optics go,
share this with you.
I get something I can share.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's in my hand. Anyways,
he's talking about his wine.
No,
moving on.
Eagle Rare, actually.
That's not wine, Jeff. That's bourbon.
That's bourbon.
It's Eagle. It's Eagle Rare. Come on now. So seriously, when it comes to optics, I've flown with. Why'd you mute me?
No, I'm not muting you. Just now that you're so close, I have to bring it down because you're over
I'm
modulating.
Back off.
Okay.
Okay. So, anyways, I'm not promoting any particular Ray-Ban line, but I have to say that their glass that they make is fantastic when it comes to aviation. Serengeti is another one. But I have been flying with Ray-Bans for a lot of years, and I find them as effective as polarized lenses without them being polarized. So it's protecting my eyes. And I don't know. Look around. Gary, do you wear sunglasses? Do you wear glasses?
Contacts. I used to wear.
Okay, so I'm the only guy in the room that doesn't wear any corrective lenses for flying. Well, he's about 17.
He's about 17.
No, he's not that young.
Wait, hold on. He doesn't shave yet. But so I'm 47. You're 34.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, he's close to that. I do not wear any type of corrective lenses yet. So I've been very careful with my eyes for a very lot of years, and most of those years I've actually worn Ray-Ban. So.
Think about the landings he'd be able to make if he did have prescription.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, Dana's mask probably still.
Yeah.
There's a website you can go to that I use on. I wear prescriptions, of course, but I get non-polarized sunglasses to wear prescription, and it's called FlightSunglasses.com.
It's called From a Blind Man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's Flight Sunglasses. It's actually, this guy is a commercial pilot for Southwest, and he has a side business, and they're really. I mean, I have Serengetis. He's got Ray-Bans. He's got some other makes on his website as well. So you can get straight sunglasses from him as well at a really good price. So
I have a website I'm gonna talk about here in a minute, and I'll explain why I know about this very shortly. But I'm going to continue with Captain Troy's feedback here. He says, I was normally a $19.99 Walmart special kind of guy. Wow, that's too high.
Wow, and you're in airline
Walmart, $19.99. $5.99. Come on.
Yeah, especially if you're a pilot.
That's exactly right.
Because you always leave them in the cockpit.
Wow.
Anyway, but he said that now I need prescription lenses. I want to make sure I get a good pair. Well, okay. I've longed for these extremely thin banded Maui Jims for many years, as this could be an excuse I need to treat myself. What do people look for in aviation sunglasses? We've been talking about that here. For years, I hated the cliche of pilots wearing aviators, and I don't particularly like the look of them. But now that I'm looking for specific characteristics, then he's calling them an armband, but what is it called?
Earband, armband, same thing. It's the arm of the glasses.
It's this right here.
Yeah.
You know, so these are really thin, and I agree 100% with him. These make all the difference in the world, especially if you're a headset.
Especially, yeah, when you're wearing the headset. Anyway, let's see. But now that I'm looking for specific characteristics, thin armband, wraparound protection for when the sun is at my 9 o'clock or high above my brow. I may be forced to eat crow and find a tolerable pair of aviator-style non-polarized glasses. I'm hoping my polarized out, but I'm very skeptical, and I think he should be. Obviously, I will not go through with it if I feel it inhibits my viability. I think he means visibility, or compromises safety in any way. I don't want to spend big bucks on prescription sunglasses if I can't wear them at work. Thanks for any feedback. Keep your eyes in the skies, hopefully behind a nice pair of sunglasses. Now, and this is interesting because I just recently, I mean like yesterday, got an email from someone who wants to promote their company. And this person, probably somebody who is their media representative or whatever, sent this piece of feedback to our show. Hi, Captain Jeff. As you know, pilots find eyewear painful while wearing a headset and often try alternative inferior methods to make sunglasses comfortable. I'm reaching out to you because I know a pilot entrepreneur who has solved a problem in the aviation community with a pair of sunglasses. Dean Siracusa founded Flying Eyes. I think Jeff is having some kind of a physical episode over here.
I can't feel my legs. This is what's going on. I can't feel my legs.
Now, if you're listening to the audio podcast, you really can't get the full
ambiance.
Ambiance or flavor.
We're sitting in a very small room with a small bed, and most of us are sitting on the bed. Including Captain Jeff, Colonel Jeff, and his legs are suffering. You okay?
Yeah. I'll live.
You'll live. Okay. Anyway, Dean Siracusa founded Flying Eyes, flyingeyesoptics.com, and is a pilot of nearly 20 years. He flies a Myers 200. I'm not sure what a Myers 200 is, but I think somebody told me that it's like a like a turboprop, single-engine turboprop or something, very high-performance general aviation airplane. I would like to put you in touch with him for an interview on your podcast. Well, Don, who sent this to me, we really don't do our podcast is not really an interview podcast, but I thought it was pretty coincidental that we received this feedback from Captain Troy, wondering about a good choice for sunglasses, and you might want to check out Dean's site, flyingeyesoptics.com, and they're having some fun over there. I don't know what they're looking at on their phones. Anyway, we'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can check out this person's sunglass sites. And apparently he's using some pretty advanced composite materials. Is that
That's the
Myers 200? Oh, that doesn't look like a turboprop airplane at all.
No.
No. Okay. Anyway, check it out. But apparently he has kind of come up with a solution for folks looking for high-performance sunglasses and with very thin armbands or whatever you want to call them that work well with
temples is what Micah.
Temples. Thank you. I knew there was something. It was called something. Okay. Do you want to share with everybody what you guys are laughing about?
No.
No. Okay.
Family show. Family show.
I think we're getting close to the breaking point here on this show.
That side of the room has obviously had too much to drink.
Yeah, they've had way too much to drink, I think. Oh, boy. Quickly, some audio that I think applies to most of us here in the room regarding EFBs. This is Chris Dean, and I need to do this quickly to kind of regain control of what's going on here in this room. Yeah, I'll try.
Greetings, APG crew. Hey, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Captain Dana, and Dr. Steph. Hey, this is Chris, otherwise known as Flying Maps on Slack, and I'm sending my first audio feedback if I can get the recorder to do what I want it to do. Been having some technical difficulties. Hopefully this makes it through. But just wanted to add a quick audio feedback to a post I made on Slack earlier today. And it was really to let you guys know that the FAA has just made some changes to their guidance around electronic flight bag. This is very relevant to my line of work. I work at Jeppesen on their EFB program. And for those of you using EFB, I know Captain Jeff and Dana and also Captain Nick use EFB. There has been some really good advancement in FAA guidance in the past week. They just published a revision to their advisory circular related to EFB. And the most exciting thing that came out of that, if FAA documents can be exciting, is to allow for the display of ownership as an overlay on your EFB in all phases of flight. Up till now, it's been available just on airport surface, so taxi charts and the like. But now, as of last week, their advisory circular now allows for ownership in all phases of flight. So, we all got better situational awareness around the airport surface a couple of years ago with the last revision, but this revision now allows for ownership in all phases of flight, including, SID star approach, en route, everything. It's going to show, it's going to allow for much better situational awareness, obviously. But then when you do more exciting things like overlaying weather as well, and knowing where that is in relationship to where your aircraft is, this is something that has been available in the GA market, Part 91 for a long time, but pretty exciting that we're able to finally do that in the airline market now as well. So, Nick, we're continuing to work with EASA, I should say the entire industry, not just Jeppesen, but working with EASA as well to have similar guidance be published for all of the European countries that follow that guidance. It's going a little bit slower, but we're still fighting the fight there as well. So unless Acme Red has already gotten authorization through your CAA, this one's going to be just for U.S. only for now. So anyway, looks like I'm about out of time. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that great information for those of us who use electronic flight bags. And I just want to say that I've lost complete control.
You really have, but I'll try and bring it back here. So he was just talking about where you can see your own position on charts and things like that, right?
I have that now, Steph.
Yeah, we've had that forever. I mean, I can pull it up on my...
At my airline, we just got it like in the past 10 days.
Yeah.
And it's all your... We used to have it just on the ground, the 10-9 page, we call it, the airport diagram.
Right.
But now we have it on the approach charts, the stars, the SIDS, our high charts, our low charts.
Well, get
Any
this.
page of a JEPS that's georeferenced, I can see my exact position.
Yep. Can you send your chart to the map, though? So you can see where it is on the map and where you are on the map?
The actual approach plate?
Like this? I don't know. You probably can't see
I don't think I can do it that way yet.
There's Steph, there's some airports with ForeFlight that are starting to do that, and even with Flight Deck Pro for the 121 world, that is technology like us GA guys are. But Jeppesen is starting to do that with all of their. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry, but the GA community is a step ahead of. I have more information in my Beach Musketeer from 1963 than you guys have in your 7.3s, your 7.5s, and all of that.
Mad Dog.
And the Mad Dogs, yes. There's a lot more information in the flight deck on many other.
We don't want all that information. It's distracting.
Well, the Puppy Dog has more information than the Mad Dog does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the industry is moving that way to put a lot of good information on the EFB, on the flight decks, and on the things like that. I'm very glad the FAA has realized and went through and looked at and said it's okay for pilots to know where they are on the approach plate, opposed to them having to kind of think about it in their head. It really takes a mental computation for to say, okay, I think I'm here, I'm going here, and I say, oh, I am here, I see that I'm here, I know that I'm here, and I'm going this way. I mean, it's great on the approach plate. It's great. I saw it in the back seat when I was flying up to Chicago last week. I generally use ForeFlight when I'm flying in the back of an airliner. I kind of know their routes and their arrivals. I've dispatched hundreds of airplanes on them before. I can see where we're going. I know the routes we're going to take. And this was the first time last week where I was able to put the star on the moving map for me. So I mean, it's a great technology.
Yeah, I've done the exact same thing, and I did it on a flight into Barrow, Alaska, where we actually had to go around because the visibility and ceilings were not great, and I could watch fly the entire published missed approach back around, which was really neat. So like it's just awesome situational awareness. So
well, we're finally.
You caught up.
Getting close to catching up.
Congratulations.
You guys are almost there. Yeah. And the experimental guys are light years in front of us.
Yeah.
Because they don't need certification.
Nope.
As near as much as we do.
That's all. That's really what holds us back.
If you really want the best technology in aviation, you look at the experimental aviation first because they don't need the certification. Then you look at GA, and then you look at the airline in the 121 world.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good news. Thank you, Chris, for letting us know about that. We're going to wrap up the show soon, but before we do, I thought that this was really interesting. I don't know if you guys were able to see this. Larry Geezer from Tulsa says, I always thought you guys were joking about chemtrails, but there will be a low-level dispersions just a few miles north of Tulsa. Can you suggest any countermeasures to take? And he gives us a link here, and he said he's looking for a geyser-sized gas mask. Cole talks about Homeland Security to begin spraying chemicals into the air to simulate a biological attack.
There is a known cure for chemtrails. It's on YouTube. You get a spritz bottle full of
vinegar.
Half of vinegar, half water.
Yeah,
spray, and it disperses it.
And so
or a tinfoil hat.
Or tinfoil, hat. That works as well. But this is serious, though. I mean, we joke around about this.
This one's real.
But
dihydrogen monoxide is a real problem.
Oh, it is.
Really
because you can't breathe it. You'll die. Seriously.
It's odorless.
Yes, it is odorless, tasteless, or flavorless. Thank you. And if you breathe too much of it, you'll die.
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security plans to conduct chemical and biological testing near the border between Kansas and Oklahoma in January and February, and again in June and July, to determine how much protection people would receive from being inside a house or an apartment in the event of a biological terrorist attack. According to a statement on the Homeland Security, our friends at the Homeland Security Department.
Our friends, for sure.
And they said this study is part of the department's ongoing commitment to preparedness and the shared responsibility of protecting the nation's critical infrastructure. The purpose of this study is to gather data that enhances our predictive capabilities in the event of a biological agent attack. Specifically, this work will help in predicting the extent to which an intentional release of a biological agent may penetrate single, family, and multifamily structures. These tests will release inert chemicals and biological materials that will be used to measure the amount of material that penetrates the buildings under varied conditions. And so they're going to be using, let's see, I'm trying to go forward here in the article. They're going to use
titanium dioxide
and urea powder mixed with Cl fluorescent brightener. For the biological portion of the test, it plans to release genetic barcoded spores of a biological insecticide known as native BTK, which is sold under the brand name of Dipel. Dipel is not considered a hazard by the Environmental Protection Agency when handled appropriately.
Keywords.
Appropriately.
Handled
but I think if you probably breathe it, it's not appropriate. And the other thing is that the first thing that you mentioned, Jeff, is actually listed as a carcinogen.
Yeah.
If you breathe it.
Yeah. That's right.
And they're going to dump. I'm thinking, is this a joke?
Nope.
Nope. Not a joke.
I think if I lived in this area,
vacation. I'd leave.
I would. At the very end of the article, it says that the public has 30 days to submit comments on the environmental assessment to Homeland Security about the proposed tests by email at biotest@hq.dhs.gov or by mail to, and they give a address there. We'll put this in the show notes. And you have to do this before December 8th. And they're serious about this. We're not kidding here.
No.
They actually are going to be doing chemtrails and substances to see what happens on people.
I thought I read this article a little while ago, and I was like, really?
Yeah,
I mean, this
it's got to be a joke.
Yeah. No, I guess they want something that they can measure. But if it's something that's in the air that's measurable, that's not supposed to be there, I don't know. I have questions about that.
Crop dusting's bad enough, as far as
Yes.
the insecticides and the fertilizers go.
Stuff that's like they're dropping low to the ground because the chemtrail conspiracists.
We're up there at altitude.
Yeah, up at doing the contrails up at 30-something thousand feet. That's just ridiculous. That by the time it gets down to Earth, it's been dispersed. But these airplanes are going to be dropping chemicals like low to the ground, and I read this and thought that this can't be true. Wow, chemtrails are a real thing, I guess.
I guess the EPA doesn't have to do environmental impacts.
Not on themselves.
Not
no.
on themselves.
Technically, this is a type of environmental impact study. It's just a real life.
Yeah, and how many people are going to actually know about this stuff? I mean, people that
the article even mentions that the city that's downwind didn't know about it until this article came out.
Yeah.
I mean, this was in a local newspaper, right? So.
Yeah, everybody reads the local newspaper.
Newkirk, Oklahoma, wherever that is.
It's somewhere between the Oklahoma and Kansas border. Go ahead, Mike.
Sell now. If you have real estate, just sell now and move.
Yeah.
A little late now.
No, I had it bought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Waterfront property in Nevada.
Oceanfront?
Yeah.
Oceanfront, yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. And I'm going to do one more here because
before you do that,
yeah.
Colonel Jeff, I have something for him.
I'm afraid to look.
No, that's probably not a good idea.
I can't feel my legs.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably true.
So right.
I had to do that. I'm sorry.
By the way, you have all the legs tomorrow, especially if there's any sort of crosswind. They're cached.
Tell me which way to move the tail, put the brakes on.
Oh, we had a catastrophe. All right, here we go.
I can't feel my legs. So crap.
Is that from the discount airline pilot guy?
Nice cold Bud Light, oh skipper of the skies.
Yes.
You put the fly in fly-by-night operation. Mr. Discount Airline Pilot Guy.
That's how I came up with the airline pilot guy. I just took off the discount part.
Perfect.
Okay. Willem Jan sent us some feedback. We talked about on the last episode Fokker airplanes, F-O-K-K-E-R. After the last plane tales, there was some confusion about the origin of, I'm going to say Fokker.
Fokker.
As Fokker was a Dutch company, we wondered how they got involved in making airplanes for the German army. I did a little bit of research and wanted to share that with you all. In the plane tales, we heard about William George Barker, a Canadian pilot during World War I. When Barker started his flying career, the British had a hard time against the Fokker Eindecker, a plane used by that plane as well as the Technique through the move. In 1910, age 20, Anthony. Okay, what are you guys doing over there? I just heard all kinds of noise in the microphone. Okay. Take two. At age 4, they moved back to the Netherlands. In 1910, age 20, Anthony went to Germany to study, where he developed his first airplane, the Spin, Dutch for spider. After that success, he founded his first company in 1912 in Berlin. He sold multiple Spin airplanes to the German government. At the beginning of World War I, the German government took control of the factory. Anthony remained as director, and during that period was involved with the making of the Fokker Eindecker monoplane and the Fokker Dreidecker triplane, which became famous as the airplane in which Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, flew. After the war, Anthony moved back to the Netherlands. There, he started a new company that would become the world's largest aircraft manufacturer in the late 1920s. Keep the blue side up and continue with this great podcast. Willem Jan. And he said, P.S., is there already a cure for APG syndrome? I might or might not have listened to the first 55 episodes in the last few weeks. Ooh. What do you say about that? Yeah.
He's got a
55 episodes in 2
bad
weeks.
case.
Wow.
That's one of the most
That's-
acute, serious cases I've ever heard of.
That's terrible.
Patient.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, he may want to try this cure, and that's
Yes.
not
Yes, we
been
need the cure.
approved by the FDA. But
Good luck with it.
Why, hello there. My name is Miami Hick, and I'm here to talk to you today about an embarrassing knowing like APG syndrome. Do you have a constant pain in your neck up at the airport? Jeff, do you think of Miami Rick every time you hear a cricket? Think of Captain Nick when you hear a frog croak. Think of Dana whenever you eat Boston baked beans. Do you think of Dr. Steph whenever you get stuck with a needle? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are suffering from APG syndrome. Well, suffer no more. Introducing Go Around the Ceiling. With only 36 daily doses of an easy to swallow pill, you can be free of your syndrome around the ceiling. Talk to your doctor today and find out what is right for you. Like all medicines, which include headache, nausea, vomiting, stomach bleeding from the ears, nose, eyes, yellow of the teeth, hair and toenails, warts, hair loss, and stomach cramps.
All right, you might want to check that out, Willem. Jan. And Miami Hick, if you're listening, we miss you. All right. With that, I think that we've been going for the episode. It's been a crazy one. Not your normal.
This is pretty much standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
no, right up.
But we are looking forward to the next episode, which is the Big 300. And Luanis, please do blast. But you might want to have a designated driver.
Uber,
there you go.
Or a tent, or a sleeping bag, or
yeah, that's true.
Something.
So, hey, if you want to learn more about the show, head over to airlinepilotguide.com, the wonderful website that Arash Mahin has kind of put together for us. Where you can learn about the APG crew, the community, merchandise, the coffee fund, and more. Yeah, and let's see, you can also learn about how you can download and load up on your smartphones and mobile devices the APG app, which is free and is ad-free as well. And again, you can look at the show notes wherever you find your podcasts, whether it be iTunes or, let's see, what are some of the other, the TuneIn, Stitcher.com, let's see, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes is the big one, but we're all over the place. And of course, if you want to watch the mayhem as we record these shows, check out the YouTube channel, airlinepilotguide.com.
I highly recommend it.
I'm sorry, youtube.com/airlinepilotguide. There you go.
Where's the pizza?
Yeah. So, did somebody order the pizza?
I forgot.
Crap.
Shoot. Oh, well.
I forgot.
Anyway, we are also on social media, and our social media expert, Dr. Steph, will tell you about that.
And hopefully you can hear me okay, because I've not been able to hear you all very well for the past 2 minutes.
We hear you.
Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead with the social media stuff. You can find us on Twitter. We're there at APG Crew is the handle. You can find all of our individual Twitter handles pinned to the top of that page. Feel free to tweet us there, and we will get back to you with whatever your with answers to your questions or comments. And also on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Seems to be mostly headed up by Captain Nick, but join us there. There's lots of community information and meetup information and articles that the community finds interesting and wants to share with everyone. So definitely check those out, and we will see you there.
And don't forget about Slack stuff.
Hello.
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 Come on out.
He's been in my closet.
Okay, here, make room for him on this bed.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to at HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel at HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
Okay, now get off the bed, Hillel. Go back to the closet.
I need to stretch
can't feel my legs.
You're right.
Thank you, Hillel, for that information about Slack. And let's see, I guess until we meet again next week.
Next week, yeah.
9 days.
Yes, wishing
Very
you
soon, in person.
Rub it in.
Yes, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Bye,
Cheers, y'all.
everybody. See ya. Have a good night.
Woohoo!
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 Had to make up for Rick.
You totally need to put outtakes from the beginning right here.
Oh, yes.
Outtakes
all of the
Yeah.
from the beginning, right here.
It's a sad, sad situation. More absurd.
More absurd is right.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being with us on this crazy show, and but it was a lot of fun. I don't know if you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Oh God, we did.
I definitely did.
Yeah. So, all right, we should probably shut this thing down because I have pieces of equipment all over the place, and it's going to take an hour for me to get it all together.
Jeff
So-
has to take his equipment off of Jeff's bed.
Yes, I need to. I do.
Wow.
Family show. Not.
Family show.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
And anyway, thank you again, Jeff, for allowing us to occupy your private space.
I'm just thrilled to be able to make this happen. I didn't expect this.
My apologies to everyone. Like I said,
there goes my night.
Yeah,
I can
you can't
only
use the
hope-
bathroom anymore.
Bathroom's done.
I can only hope that next week when I'm there in person, I will have slightly more control over the situation.
It's not going to be as much fun if you're there to
Problem
keep
would
us
be
from doing
open.
this.
Breaks the window. So there's a chance that the window doesn't go pee.
Oh my. Okay.
Wow.
That's enough. That's enough. Why don't we go ahead and
Good luck.
stop the broadcast? Steph, thank you very much for putting up with us tonight.
Oh,
Thanks, Steph.
my
Thank you,
pleasure,
Steph.
As always, I love you guys.
It's not your
Love you
fault.
too.
We love you too.
Hey, any idea when you're coming in?
9 days.
No idea. Let me know.
Like Friday night, probably.
Okay.
Ish.
I'm gonna be in Tennessee before that, so I have to drive down.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. I'll let you know.
You can come
Okay.
down.
Yeah, Jeff, you could be here.
You
There.
could.
I
Yeah.
have showtime first thing the next morning.
Showtime,
You
schmo-time.
can be the designated driver. For
Wait, time out.
Designated driver.
Hey, Jeff, you can book the last jump seat back up to New York on Saturday.
Be puking in the jump seat on the way home.
Why not? Why not? We're starting early enough.
Oh, really?
I hear phones from Atlanta go to Dallas, so you can use just Collins,
All right. Let's just shut this thing
All
down.
right, shut it down. Thanks everybody. Have
Good
a great
night.
night.
Bye bye.
Night.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.